Chapter 30-25. There was nothing to deny about Heaven Master Shi's words. Ning Shu nodded and admitted calmly, "That's right. Even the soul is afraid of that thing." For some reason, Heaven Master Shi heaved a sigh of relief. He probably felt that this female ghost also had shortcomings, which made her look less annoying. Gao Yang felt uncomfortable all over. He asked Luo Yi, "Can we go back now?" "Okay." It was the first time Luo Yi saw his Shikigami like this. No matter how terrifying the ghost was, he had never seen him so uneasy. Everyone got into Heaven Master Shi's car. Even when they got in, Ning Shu didn't close the umbrella, making the car seem very crowded. "Can you close the umbrella when we get in the car?" Heaven Master Shi couldn't help but ask. This female ghost was simply a weirdo. Ning Shu shook his head. "No, I feel uncomfortable without an umbrella. If I don't open an umbrella, I feel uncomfortable all over." After squeezing home like this, Gao Yang's situation became better. Ning Shu sat on the sofa, shaking his legs. He tried to leave the world, but he still couldn't. Ning Shu was very unhappy. Why was she trapped here? What was the use of her being trapped here? And to deal with this kind of thing, she needed skeleton. Heaven Master Shi sat opposite Ning Shu and asked, "Please tell us what that thing is." Ning Shu was in a bad mood, and Heaven Master Shi was interrogating him again. He said angrily, "I don't know." Heaven Master Shi took a deep breath and stopped talking. Luo Yi asked, "Why are you afraid of those things? Are you afraid that poisonous feces will stick to your body?" "That kind of thing is dirty and poisonous," Ning Shu said. Luo Yi asked, "Ghosts are afraid of that kind of thing?" Ning Shu glanced at him. "What are you thinking?" Luo Yi said, "If ghosts are afraid of this thing, then we can use this thing to deal with them in the future." Ning Shu's eyes widened as he looked at Luo Yi. "You are really a ghost-catching genius. Even a normal person's soul could be corrupted by it, let alone a malicious ghost. Otherwise, how could the poison of earthworms be effective on living people? If one's soul was touched by this thing, their soul would be contaminated and they would lose their consciousness." The pain was self-evident. Luo Yi did not understand the meaning behind Ning Shu's words. Instead, he asked, "Do you think it's feasible?" Heavenly Master Shi pulled Luo Yi to his side and sat down. This time, his attitude towards Ning Shu was a little better. He asked, "Excuse me, what exactly is that thing?" Ning Shu sighed and explained the matter to Shi Tianshi. Shi Tianshi's expression became very grave when he heard that this thing not only affected souls but also people. Moreover, when he heard that monsters could be born inside, his expression was so gloomy that it could drip water. He turned to Luo Yi and said, "Don't make this matter public. For something like this that could deal with malicious ghosts, wouldn't those heavenly masters be scrambling for it? However, this kind of thing is very dangerous to use. It's impossible to imagine all the ghosts being tainted." Ning Shu said, "I think you should inform the underworld about this matter. This matter is definitely related to the underworld." The world was divided into two. One side was the sun, and the other side was the underworld. Ning Shu suspected that the place from before was actually a barrier. This kind of thing leaked out from the barrier. Heavenly Master Shi asked, "What do you mean?" "Only a place where souls gather can have so much filth. In short, inform the underworld to come and take a look." Ning Shu said. Even if he left her here, she wouldn't be able to handle this matter because she wouldn't be able to do it. Heavenly Master Shi and Luo Yi began to perform the ritual. They prepared to summon the people of the underworld. Ning Shu casually took 2 copper coins from Luo Yi and began to communicate with the heavenly Tao. She had to go out and not fight with the calamity beast. Ning Shu deeply suspected that the heavenly Tao of this world trapped him here to fight with the calamity beast. Ning Shu almost rolled his eyes. "Why? Do you have a bigger face?" Luo Yi was speechless. This ghost could even take copper coins. Many people had touched copper coins before. It was the most young item. Why was nothing wrong with her holding it? Ning Shu communicated with the heavenly Tao. In the end, the 2 copper coins exploded and cracked. Ning Shu spread his hands. I'm sorry. The will of heaven is too strong. It cracked the copper coins. This meant that he refused to discuss with her. Ning Shu chuckled in his heart. It was his fault for forcing himself into this world. He obtained a soul pearl, but now he couldn't leave. Luo Yi was speechless. Heavenly Master Shi was speechless. So what are you doing? You destroyed the copper coins. Ning Shu spread his hands and said, give me 2 more copper coins. Luo Yi shook his head. No, these copper coins are real antiques. Master only passed down these few to me. Ning Shu saw the potted plant and casually took 2 leaves and began to do divination. He bargained with the heavenly Tao. She had to leave. A few marks appeared on the leaves. The marks were neat, as if they were cut by a knife. Heaven Master Shi and Luo Yi looked at each other. What are you trying to divine? Luo Yi said, do you want to leave for a while? We are going to summon the people of the underworld. You are a lonely ghost. You will be captured and brought to the underworld. Ning Shu said, do as you wish. Don't worry about me. Heaven Master Shi and Luo Yi began to cast their spells. Not long after, a cold wind blew. Someone from the underworld came and asked in a low voice, why did you summon me? Heaven Master Shi explained everything that had happened. When the people from the underworld heard this, they focused their gaze on Luo Yi. After a while, they said, this kind of thing can only be done by the destined person. Ning Shu was originally divining. When he heard the words of the underworld staff, he couldn't help but look at Luo Yi. What did he mean? Could it be that Luo Yi was a destined person? His responsibility was to eliminate the calamity beast. Ning Shu felt that the people from the underworld were probably joking. If Luo Yi could deal with it, why would she spend so much money to nurture so many skeletons? Ning Shu was quite curious. Why did he think that Luo Yi could deal with the calamity beast? Although the calamity beast was not big and had not matured yet, could Luo Yi deal with it? Saving the world alone. What a joke. Heaven Master Shi also felt that something was amiss. He asked the people from the underworld, what do you mean by destined person? What does it have to do with Luo Yi? You will know when the time is right. The people from the underworld said ambiguously. They seemed very mysterious. Ning Shu was not in a good mood. He directly pulled the people from the underworld in front of him and beat them up. Then, he said, can you speak properly? What destined person? How should Luo Yi defeat those monsters? If a human could deal with it, then her skeletons would have nothing to do. Furthermore, they had to rely on the power of faith to destroy it. Are you kidding me? Originally, when the staff of the underworld were summoned by the Heaven Master, they all had a high and mighty attitude. In the end, these Heaven Masters were all working for the underworld and dealing with the ghosts in the human world. Chapter 30-26. The people of the underworld were inevitably a little arrogant in front of these heavenly masters. Moreover, the heavenly masters were proud of summoning the soul hunters of the underworld. She spoke mysteriously, but Ning Shu was very indignant. If she could solve it alone, why did she have to work so hard to nurture skeletons? Therefore, Ning Shu didn't like this staff of the underworld. After being beaten up, the staff of the underworld still said stubbornly, the secrets of heaven can't be revealed. Hurry up and leave. Are you going to tell me? Ning Shu looked at him. What secrets of heaven can't be revealed? That's just fooling ordinary people. Luo Yi and Heavenly Master Shi were speechless. Why do you always do things out of line? I'm afraid that you will be captured by the people of the underworld. In the end, you beat them up. If you don't tell me, I won't let you go. Otherwise, I'll push you into that pool and let you experience the feeling of soaking in a poisonous cesspool. The heavenly Tao didn't let her go. She felt uncomfortable. Now, she was still pretending to be mysterious. The staff of the underworld who was beaten up by Ning Shu covered his face and hid in a corner. I really can't tell you now. He turned around and wanted to run, but he was bounced back. Ning Shu looked at him expressionlessly. This person had no choice but to say, I don't know the details. It's just that when the time comes, someone will be able to seal this kind of thing. Just a seal? Ning Shu asked. What's the use of a seal? There are people who are born with extreme yang. They use their souls and bodies to suppress those monsters. Ning Shu looked at Luo Yi. Heavenly Master Shi's heart trembled. He asked, is there no other way? Did they have to sacrifice Luo Yi? Luo Yi was talented, and evil spirits couldn't get close to him. However, the price to pay was too great. If they had a choice, who would want to have such benefits and a mission? Luo Yi was a little confused. Obviously, he didn't expect that as an orphan, he would need to save the world. The staff of the underworld almost cried. I told you that it's not the time to talk about this. The destined person hasn't become strong yet. Ning Shu asked, since the underworld exists, why is such a thing born? If hell was capable of purifying souls and removing the impurities within them, then perhaps it would be a good idea. The person from the underworld said, it's from the Yellow Springs River. The Yellow Springs River is corrosive to ghosts. Once a soul enters it, it will be corroded. Basically, no soul can crawl out. I don't know where this Yellow Springs River leads to, but these things are gradually appearing. Every once in a while, a person will be born to deal with these monsters. He had nothing left to live for. If he said this, he would definitely be beaten to death when he returned. No, he was already dead. He could only be fried in a pot of oil. I've said what I should say. Can you let me go? Ning Shu grunted and let him go. After the employees of the underworld left, the house fell into a suffocating silence. No one knew what to say. Ning Shu continued his divination. The leaves on the potted plants were all pulled bare by Ning Shu. Every divination ended in failure. Heavenly Master Shi's heart ached. Luo Yi was just a naive child. Why did he have to bear these things? It was not fair at all. Looking at Ning Shu, who was doing the divination, he asked a little pleadingly, what can you do? Save Luo Yi. You must know how to deal with those things. Ning Shu said, get out of the way. You're disturbing my divination. Luo Yi said, I didn't expect that I would have such a mission. It seems that there are no monsters there yet. I can live for a long time. But your body and soul have to be used to suppress those monsters. Your soul can't enter the underworld to be reincarnated. Heavenly Master Shi felt pain every time he breathed. After drinking Meng Po's soup, I don't remember who I am. It doesn't matter if I reincarnate or not, Luo Yi muttered to himself. He stood up, walked into the room, and locked himself in. No one could face death calmly. After knowing their future and knowing that they were born to deal with these monsters, everyone was stuck. Heavenly Master Shi wiped his face and was extremely annoyed. Seeing that the female ghost was still doing the divination, he was angry, but he did not dare to be angry with her. Now he only hoped that the female ghost could find a way to save Luo Yi. After seeing those things, although the female ghost looked disgusted, she did not panic or fear. It was destined to be a restless night. When the sun rose the next day, Luo Yi came out of the bedroom. His eyes were red. It seemed that he had cried. However, Heavenly Master Shi did not go back. He stayed in the living room for the whole night. After staying up all night, his eyes were red. Luo Yi acted as if nothing had happened. After washing up, he began to make breakfast. Heavenly Mastershur did not know how to comfort him. He opened his mouth but could not say a word. Any words of comfort were pale. Luo Yi said, "It's okay. I'll live every day as if it's my last day." The breakfast prepared by Luo Yi was very sumptuous, but Heavenly Mastershur tasted like wax. He asked, "Do you want to tell your master about this?" Luo Yi shook his head. "Don't tell my master. It'll make him feel bad. Even if something happens in the future, just say that it was killed by a hostile ghost. It's easier for my master to accept being killed by a hostile ghost." Heavenly Mastershur's heart ached. He was in so much pain that he almost cried. He reached out and grabbed Luo Yi's hand. "Don't be afraid. I'll be by your side." Gao Yang floated to Ning Shu's side. He saw that the things on the ground that could be used for divination had all been divined. It was a big pile of trash. After a whole night of divination, she was still doing it. She held an umbrella and squatted on the ground like a mushroom. Gao Yang asked in a low voice, "Is there really no way?" Ning Shu stretched and sat on the sofa. He was too tired. He had never seen the way of heaven like this. He dawdled for half the night and could not communicate with it. Now he finally got it through. She could finally leave this world, but there was a condition. Ning Shu thought that it was a bit of a loss. It was just a soul pearl. Even if she wanted to replicate the world of reincarnation, Ning Shu was simply confused about how the world of reincarnation was formed. Even if he had a soul pearl, Ning Shu did not dare to guarantee that he could replicate the world of reincarnation. Moreover, Ning Shu had no clue about the materials. There seemed to be boundary stones. What else was there? In short, this kind of thing was completely a hodgepodge of inexplicable things. However, it would be extremely difficult to recreate the formula. Gao Yang asked again, "Is there really no way?" Ning Shu smiled. "If there is a way, what price are you willing to pay?" Hearing this, Heavenly Mastershur quickly said, "As long as it's not Luo Yi's life, we can pay any price." Ning Shu asked again, "How about your life?" "A life for a life." Heavenly Mastershur was stunned. He looked at Luo Yi and pursed his lips. He did not speak for a moment. Chapter 30-27. Ning Shu mischievously said that she would trade a life for a life. Usually, this kind of world problem was particularly heart-wrenching. Especially for lovers, Ning Shu felt that he was really merciful. Heavenly Mastershur was rendered speechless by Ning Shu. He didn't know if what she said about exchanging a life for a life was true or false. Anyway, Heaven Mastershur had no idea what this female ghost was thinking and why she suddenly appeared in front of Luo Yi. Or was she the one who guided Luo Yi to sacrifice himself to save the world? Heaven Mastershur's heart was filled with all kinds of comments. He was afraid that if he really died, there would be no way to save people. Luo Yi said directly, "This is my business. How can I let others sacrifice their lives to save me? Heaven Mastershur, please don't do this. I can't repay this favor." Luo Yi hurriedly waved his hand and said to Ning Shu, "Even if there is such a thing, you can't do this." Luo Yi was quite moved and said, "Heaven Mastershur, you are the person who treats me the best except for my master. Please don't die." Heaven Mastershur was speechless. Heaven Mastershur's heart was very complicated and he was very angry. Do you fucking understand? Who treats you well? Why don't I treat you well instead of others? Use your pig brain to think about it. The pig brain Luo Yi couldn't think of anything and said, "When my master asks about it in the future, you can say that I was killed by a malicious ghost." Heaven Mastershur said, "Then your master will ask me to pay for one of his disciples. If you want to say this kind of thing, you can say it yourself. I won't say it. I won't be the bad guy. Luo Yi was a little disappointed. Well, it's quite difficult for you. Ning Shu felt that he was in a charade now. The people next to him took the opportunity to show off their love and tell each other their heartfelt feelings. It was a little unbearable. Ning Shu said, "You guys take your time. I'm leaving." Luo Yi was stunned and asked, "Where are you going?" Ning Shu said, "Of course, I'm going back to my place." Heaven Master Shi frowned. "Where are you going? Where did you come from?" This female ghost was really too mysterious, which made Heavenly Master Shi very afraid of her. However, he had no choice but to place his hopes on her. "Ning Shu, didn't you tell me to get lost before? Why are you not letting me go now?" Ning Shu opened the black hole and walked into it. After the black hole disappeared, Ning Shu disappeared from the room. The female ghost disappeared just like that. Heavenly Master Shi's expression was a little unsightly. He originally wanted to get some information from the female ghost so that Luo Yi could avoid future accidents. However, the female ghost left just like that and took away the soul-sucking pearl. Was he following Luo Yi for the soul-sucking pearl? He really couldn't figure out what a ghost could do with the soul-sucking pearl. Could it be that she was cultivating with it in her mouth like a zombie? Forget about cultivating, the soul-sucking pearl had already absorbed her soul. Luo Yi sighed and said, "She left just like that. I can't bear to part with her." Heavenly Master Shi, he didn't want to talk. Ning Shu returned to the world of samsara. Looking at the gloomy world of samsara, Ning Shu felt very safe and didn't want to go back to that world. The black bone umbrella became dirty again. He just bought one and it didn't take long for it to become dusty again. When the two sides fought, more dirty things might spurt out. He felt that one black bone umbrella couldn't protect him anymore. Should he get two? He got two black bone umbrellas, one in his left hand and the other in his right. Ning Shu went to check on his precious skeletons and planned to cultivate one or two first. Their souls and bones had been fused for some time. Now these skeletons were more lively and could walk around. Some of them could even speak fluently. Ning Shu walked over and asked Li Si, "Based on your observation, which skeletons can be cultivated first?" Of course, they were intelligent and recovered quickly. Li Si pointed at a skeleton and said, "That skeleton is good." Ning Shu looked at the skeleton that Li Si was pointing at. The skeleton stood with its hands behind its back. It stood there motionlessly and looked around silently. It did not speak much. However, its noble and elegant posture was a little funny because it was a skeleton. But through the skeleton, one could feel a sense of calmness. It felt good. Ning Shu waved at it and asked it to come over. The skeleton first looked left and right to make sure that Ning Shu was calling it. Then, Ning Shu slowly walked over. Li Si said to the skeleton, "This is the person who created you. His name is..." What was his name? Ning Shu also felt that these skeletons should have a name for him. Calling him boss was too formal. Calling him grandaunt was too formal. Then what should he call her? Lady. Ning Shu said, "Just call me Lady." Li Si turned his head in horror. Because he turned his head too quickly, his neck made a cracking sound. He probably twisted it. This skeleton did not speak for a long time. Ning Shu suspected that there was something wrong with its intelligence. Now, he had to cultivate one. Moreover, he had to bring it out to fight. It was not good to be too stupid. The skeleton said, "Lady, this name is a bit shameful and shameless." Ning Shu was speechless. "You said that I am shameless?" This kind of problem could not be spoiled. Ning Shu asked expressionlessly, "Then what do you think I should call you?" "I am a tyrant. I only like to hear nice words." The skeleton thought for a while. It probably did not have any vocabulary in its mind. It shook its head and said, "I will listen to you." Then call you lady. Ning Shu made a firm decision. What opinion could the skeleton have? None. Ning Shu said, now, there is a mission that needs your help. Ning Shu took the skeleton and Li Si to the side and cultivated them separately. Ning Shu took out a lot of golden light of virtue and gave some to Li Si. The rest of the 100 or so were all given to the skeleton. The skeleton looked at the golden light of virtue in the basket, tilted its head and asked puzzledly, why did you give me so many, lady? Ning Shu was speechless. Damn, it was really a bit shameful. Especially in the future, when these skeletons became sensible and experienced more, they would all call him skeleton. It was really shameful. Don't be afraid, he would get used to it. Eat, then do something. Ning Shu said. Instead of spending money to hire other skeletons, it was better to cultivate his own skeleton. Although it would take a lot of golden light of virtue to cultivate, he already had a skeleton. Sooner or later, he would have to cultivate it. After Li Si ate the golden light of virtue, the white light on his body was finally balanced. The color became more mellow. The skeleton chewed slowly one by one. Although it ate slowly, the golden light of virtue was quickly emptied. The skeleton's body gradually became golden. After eating more than 100 golden light of virtue, the color of its body was already very deep. It was golden yellow. Ning Shu said to the skeleton, jump and see. Virtuous grains could increase the skeleton's defensive capabilities, as well as increase their strength in all aspects. Chapter 30-28. The golden light of merit could prevent evil spirits from invading, its defensive ability was very strong. Even if those pollutants were to splash on the skeleton, it would not corrode the skeleton. The skeleton jumped obediently. With this jump, it was actually 3 feet high. With a bang, it landed again. The skeleton actually did not fall apart. Merit was really a good thing. The skeleton obviously had not adapted to its own power. Ning Shu asked, what is your name? The skeleton thought for a moment. Zhu Jun. Ning Shu raised his eyebrows, this was your previous name? Zhu Jun said, I don't remember my previous name. Ning Shu said to Li Si, this time we are going to deal with the disaster beast. You have experience in dealing with the disaster beast. Tell him and let him familiarize himself with his own power. Yes. Li Si replied and asked, the reincarnation pool has not given birth to the disaster beast yet. It was born in another place. It was born in the world. Didn't you want to find your master? This time, we are going to the world. You can look for him. Ning Shu said to Li Si, teach him well. When Li Si heard that he could go to the world, he was very excited. He did not expect to be able to go to the world so soon. Ning Shu returned to the system space and prepared to buy a mask or something. When the disaster beast ran out, it would be very smelly. Even if she looked at it from the side, it would be very uncomfortable. Anyway, the disaster beast in that world would not be formed so early. Ning Shu rested in the system space. After the matters in this world were settled, he would do other things. Ning Shu felt that the underworld should be removed from the world of the 5th level and connected to the world of reincarnation. Although the world of reincarnation would also give birth to disaster beasts, they would not pollute the world. They could also be dealt with here. Moreover, those things were not destroyed at all. Who knew how they were sealed? Even if there was the underworld, there were still many souls in the human world. They were all captured by the employees of the underworld. And when it was connected to the world of reincarnation, it would form a black channel that directly sucked the souls away. Unless there were some special reasons, 90% of the souls could enter the world of reincarnation. Without the underworld, perhaps the number of heavenly masters would decrease sharply. After all, if there were fewer malicious ghosts staying in the underworld, the heavenly masters would not be able to make ends meet. Naturally, they would not be doing this job anymore. Ning Shu ordered someone to clean the black bone umbrella. Looking at the dirty umbrella, Ning Shu felt as if his soul was being polluted. Ding dong. The chat system chimed. Ning Shu opened it and saw that it was a message from the Abyssal Prefect. Ning Shu, don't tell me you're going to show off your baby again. Abyssal Prefect, I heard that you didn't even get half of the 5,000. Ning Shu said, actually, there were more than 2,400, almost half. Something went wrong along the way. Abyssal Prefect, what a waste. There should have been more than 3,000 out of 5,000. I gave you the newest method with the highest survival rate, but in the end, not even half of them succeeded. Ning Shu, she wasn't here to show off her baby, but to complain about her. Of course, Ning Shu wouldn't say that out loud. She almost couldn't do it. Ning Shu simply said, there was an accident along the way. That's why it ended up like this. Does the child have a name yet? Has he grown taller? He might even be able to walk now. He could not be treated as an ordinary child. Abyssal Prefect, oh, he's just a so-so. He was born in that broken little world of yours. He's naturally weak and needs to be nurtured. Ning Shu, who did her broken little world offend? Ning Shu felt as if he and the Abyssal Prefect were fighting over the child's custody. The two families were verbally abusing each other, trying their best to smear each other's reputation. They both felt that it was best for the child to be with them. Ning Shu felt that the Abyssal Prefect was overthinking things. She would not fight with the Abyssal Prefect. She did not have the time to take care of a child. As long as the child fulfilled his responsibilities, she did not care who he liked to be with. Besides, she did not have anything to do with this child, nor did she have the time to nurture their relationship. Ning Shu said, then please take care of him. After a long while, the Abyssal Prefect replied, I said that as long as I gave you the method of making skeletons, you would not restrict this child. Ning Shu, I mean what I say. If this child is willing to live with you, I have no objection. This was the main point. After getting the answer, the Abyssal Prefect went offline directly. He did not even bother to talk to Ning Shu. Ning Shu turned off the chat system, took out the soul pearl, and looked at the black and round pearl. Ning Shu held the notebook and tried hard to recall how the world of samsara was born. A soul pearl. It seemed that there were boundary stones and other things. Boundary stones were not easy to find. This kind of stone that could be used to build boundaries was really hard to find. In addition to boundary stones, there were other things. Ning Shu scratched on the notebook. He felt that this world of samsara was a beautiful misunderstanding. It was completely a coincidence. But it was very difficult to piece together these coincidences. Anyway, this thing was born inexplicably. Some people built worlds, but he had never heard of anyone buying a complete world of samsara. There was a method to building a world. It needed the origin of the world and then slowly evolved into living beings. But the world of samsara had no rules and people had to build it step by step. He seemed to remember that he bought something from the world of samsara at the auction. That was something that happened 100 years ago, and Ning Shu really couldn't remember it. He would keep the pearl first and then slowly collect the materials. Other than building another world of samsara, it was more important to solve the problem of the law of nothingness. He put the star stone into the vast law of nothingness. Now the peerless martial arts were like a bowl. He did not know when the law of nothingness would overflow. But the world was still shrinking. Ning Shu could not figure it out no matter how much she thought about it. She always felt that these things did not follow her will at all, and she did as she pleased. Just like the world of samsara, it kept evolving. It did not care whether she could afford it or not. It could simply force people to death. Luckily, the reincarnation pool was born. Otherwise, Ning Shu felt that he would need to feed all his soul power to the world of samsara and it would not be enough. Seeing that it was about time, Ning Shu went to the world of samsara to see the results of Zhu Jun's training. Honestly speaking, this was the first time he brought his skeletons to battle. Ning Shu was really nervous. He was even more nervous than the skeletons themselves. As he spent money to do this, Ning Shu was afraid that something would happen to his skeletons. If something happened, Ning Shu would hear a cry in his mind. My money. But he spent money to let these skeletons do things. So, he couldn't not let these skeletons do things just because he felt bad about money. He couldn't afford to raise them. Ning Shu asked, "How is the training?" "Let's go to the world of samsara to fight." If they didn't fight, they would never be able to fight. In the process of nurturing them, he might lose some skeletons. Those weak ones would be eliminated. Honestly speaking, now that Li Si and Zhu Jun stood together, Ning Shu could not tell who was who. At this time, he had to remain cold and not let them know. Chapter 30-29. Ning Shu brought the 2 golden skeletons into the 5th layer of the world and landed in Luo Yi's house. This time, it was much easier to enter the world. There was no feeling of forcefully pushing people out. He had never seen such a heavenly Tao. If you are useful, you can come in. If you are useless, don't even think about coming in. The 2 skeletons also appeared in the living room. Luo Yi's small apartment was very quiet. All the props in the house were taken away. They probably went to catch ghosts. Ning Shu sat on the sofa and turned on the TV to watch. The 2 skeletons were very curious about the things around them. Zhu Jun had forgotten the past. Everything was new to him. And Li Si had always lived in the 1st layer. The 1st layer was the ancient cultivation world. He had never seen the modern world. When Ning Shu turned on the TV, the 2 skeletons jumped up in fright and directly hit the ceiling. Ning Shu said, "You guys familiarize yourself with the environment." The 2 skeletons rummaged through Luo Yi's small apartment. Flush toilets, all kinds of things. Looking at the iron box galloping on the road outside the window, they were really amazed. When the 2 skeletons' novelty was over, they became a little more well-behaved. Luo Yi, who returned home in the middle of the night, opened the door and turned on the light. He saw 2 dazzling golden skeletons in his house. Without thinking, he pulled out his peachwood sword and stabbed it into Zhu Jun's body. The peachwood sword directly pierced through Zhu Jun's chest. Zhu Jun lowered his head and looked at the peachwood sword. He stretched out his hand and directly crushed the peachwood sword. What kind of evildoer came to find me? Luo Yi felt that it was really not easy for him. Previously, he met a big snake, a zombie, and now he met a skeleton. Don't do it. Ning Shu was afraid that the skeleton would raise his hand and slap Luo Yi's head off. He hurriedly opened his mouth. This is an acquaintance. Don't do it first. Luo Yi saw Ning Shu sitting on the sofa and said happily, "You are back. I thought you would not come back after leaving." "Actually, I didn't want to come back, but I had no choice." "Who are they?" Luo Yi pointed at the 2 skeletons that were about to blind his titanium dog eyes. Especially under the light, the reflection of the golden light was so dazzling. Ning Shu said, "They are all my underlings. I have something to do this time. Don't treat them as ghosts, but you can't beat them." Luo Yi, on the other hand, was very open-minded. He expressed that he welcomed the 2 skeletons. These skeletons had life, able to stay in ordinary worlds, but their bodies also had death energy, able to stay in the world of reincarnation, between life and death. Even if it was an ordinary world, the yang qi of the world had no effect on these skeletons. Ning Shu asked, "You went out to catch ghosts?" "That's right. We've exorcised the ghosts in the park. We've also found the murderer. The murderer is from the estate management company. They killed the people and buried the bodies," Luo Yi said. Ning Shu replied, "Oh, Heavenly Mastershur didn't follow you. No, I didn't let him follow me. I feel that he treats me like a patient with terminal cancer. I don't think there's any change. I'll do what I have to do, Luo Yi said in a low voice. As a heavenly master, no one knows what kind of malicious ghost they will encounter next. Maybe they will die. Heavenly Mastershur doesn't have to do this at all. It's not good to know the future. Especially when it came to things like fate, it was better not to know. Ning Shu knew that Luo Yi was just pretending to be strong. No one could be generous enough to die. Ning Shu changed the topic and said, if you have a mission in the future, take my 2 underlings with you and let them practice. That's not very good. Luo Yi looked at the 2 golden skeletons. If he took them out, it would cause panic. Ning Shu said, aren't you a heavenly master? Can't you even make some camouflage? Luo Yi said, okay. He felt a lot of pressure to go out with these 2 skeletons. Luo Yi asked again, why did you come back this time? Nothing much, I just brought my underlings out to see the world. Ning Shu wouldn't say that he was here to deal with the disaster beast. If he couldn't deal with it at that time, that would be embarrassing. He would talk about it after he dealt with it. Luo Yi said, oh. Looking at these skeletons, he said, give me more light. Zhu Jun and Li Si said, please take care of us. They can still talk. Luo Yi was shocked. These were self-aware and intelligent skeletons. They felt even more different than zombies. They can talk. You can just treat them as ordinary people. Ning Shu took the remote control and adjusted the TV. The 2 skeletons sat on both sides of Ning Shu and stared at the TV. Luo Yi wanted to shake his head. How could all kinds of monsters gather in this small apartment of his? Luo Yi, who was hungry, made instant noodles. The taste was very fragrant, but for Ning Shu and the skeletons who were in soul state, this kind of food was not attractive at all. Luo Yi asked, what do they eat? He was asking about the skeletons. Ning Shu said, they eat good food. You can't imagine it. Luo Yi thought for a while and finally gave up. As long as the skeletons didn't hurt him, it was fine. While Luo Yi was eating, the doorbell rang. Ning Shu scanned with his spiritual power and found that it was Heaven Mastershur. Heaven Mastershur was carrying a bag with a lot of supper inside. Gao Yang opened the door, and Heaven Mastershur walked in with the bag. When he saw the skeletons watching TV on the sofa, he suspected that his eyes were playing tricks on him. How could there be such a thing? And one of the skeletons looked at him, then turned its head and continued to watch TV. It seemed to be enjoying it. Heaven Mastershur, you are here. Luo Yi said immediately, we have guests at home. Why are you eating instant noodles again? I brought you supper, Heavenly Mastershur said as he looked into the living room. Heaven Mastershur put the supper on the table and took away Luo Yi's instant noodles. Heaven Mastershur sat on the sofa, but Ning Shu and the skeletons didn't even look at him. They were watching TV. The skeletons giggled, and Heaven Mastershur didn't dare to interrupt. It was only when the advertisement was played that he looked at Heavenly Mastershur, still unsatisfied. Heaven Mastershur asked Ning Shu, you are back again. I have something to ask you. Ning Shu tidied up her skirt. I'm not in the mood to talk about this now. Some things will come sooner or later. Heaven Mastershur frowned. What if I am willing to exchange my life for Luo Yi's? He lowered his voice, afraid that Luo Yi, who was eating, would hear him. Ning Shu looked at him. Are you serious? There is no such thing as exchanging a life for a life. And how can you replace him? Although you are quite strong now, you don't have his physique. Love made people blind. With just a little thought, he knew that there was a loophole. Heaven Mastershur was speechless. Did I really believe in your nonsense? Heaven Mastershur took a deep breath. Is there really no way? Ning Shu shrugged her shoulders. Nope. Chapter 30. Master Shi felt that he was a masochist. He clearly knew that this female ghost was not serious, yet he still insisted on asking. He did not know if her words were true or false. Because his attitude towards her was not good before, this female ghost held a grudge. To him, it was a big matter, but the other party did not care at all. This made him very angry. Could she be more serious, but he could not get angry. The two skeletons stared at him with their black eye sockets. Although they did not have eyes, they were still staring at him. Their gaze was focused on him. Master Shi stood up and sat at the dining table. He also ate something and said to Luo Yi, I learned some things from the Celestial Master Association's database. This kind of thing only recorded some scraps, there are not many. Luo Yi said, don't worry, just do what you have to do. You're making me feel very uncomfortable. Master Shi endured the pain in his heart and nodded, yes, just do what you have to do. Ning Shu, it was the Azura arena again. Ning Shu brought the two skeletons and left. He was going to the place where the disaster beast was born to take a look. Before entering the cave, Ning Shu smelled a stench. He quickly put on his mask, held the black bone umbrella, and brought the two skeletons in. Li Si was very surprised, why is there this kind of thing? Could it be that there is a rebirth pool here? Ning Shu shook his head, how can there be a rebirth pool? I don't know where this kind of thing came from. Li Si looked at the sticky pool that was bubbling. Occasionally, there would be something the size of a child swimming in it. When it saw someone, it would immediately sink into the pool as if it was frightened. This kind of black creature did not have any facial features. It was just a black ball. It looked disgusting and smelled very bad. This was the filthy thing in the soul, and then it was born. It had no consciousness and fed on filth. As it wandered, the filth in its body would spread everywhere. Whether it was a human or a soul, they would suffer. They were still small before, but now they had grown so big. The speed was really fast, and there were a lot of them. Even if Luo Yi could really suppress them, how could he suppress so many of them? Even if she had brought two skeletons with her, the current situation was still unbearable. Gurgle, gurgle. The pond was bubbling. Once the bubbles broke, it was as if a foul gas was released. This gas was very smelly. The situation was not optimistic, he had to train the two skeletons. Although Li Si had participated in the annihilating beasts battles a few times, he had only been assisting from the side. He had never faced it alone. Zhu Jun was a completely new person and had never seen such a thing before. The disaster beast would not leave the pool before it matured. He could not possibly reach his hand into the pool to fish it out. This feeling was as disgusting as sticking his hand into a cesspool, and it would contaminate his soul. Ning Shu would not do such a thing. Even if the skeletons would not be contaminated, directly scooping up the disaster beast was no different from committing suicide. Although the golden light of merit could resist corrosion, everything had a limit. No matter how much merit one had, it wouldn't be enough. Now, Li Si knew what they were here for. They were here to destroy the disaster beast. After destroying the disaster beast, he wondered if he could stay in this world for a while and look for the young master. Ning Shu brought the two skeletons and teleported back to the small apartment. Luo Yi and Heaven Master Shi finally finished their supper. Ning Shu said to the two, I went over to take a look. That thing is starting to grow. It will probably mature soon. With the growth of the pool water, it will grow very quickly. Luo Yi and Heaven Master Shi were speechless. Why did you bring this up again? We were just about to finish eating and have a good sleep, but you brought up such a disappointing matter again. Heaven Master Shi was a bit desperate. Why did Luo Yi have to do this? Why? There are so many people in the world, why did it have to be Luo Yi? Luo Yi doesn't even know who his parents are, but he has to save so many unfamiliar people, so many strangers. Why did it have to be someone he liked? Who knew why? She was also schemed against by the heavenly Tao, but she was not as upset and worried as Heaven Master Shi. In the end, it was a matter of strength. Ning Shu ignored Heaven Master Shi and said to Luo Yi, in the future, bring 2 skeletons with you to catch malicious ghosts and expiate souls. He had to let the 2 skeletons have actual combat experience. Luo Yi nodded. Okay. Luo Yi and Heaven Master Shi slept in the same room and on the same bed at night. The 2 skeletons asked, it's fine if we sleep together, but why are we lying on each other? Ning Shu was speechless. Could it be that the 2 of them were already together? It was normal when he thought about it. He didn't know when a disaster would come. Of course, he should cherish every day. He should confess when he should, and applaud when he should. Ning Shu said, don't worry about the master's affairs. They are a couple, don't use your spiritual power to peek at others. Zhu Jun and Li Si were speechless. Are you bullying us skeletons because we haven't seen the world? Why are they 2 men? Li Si had memories and knew about yin and yang intercourse. Even if there was a rabbit master in a big family, Li Si still saw more yin and yang intercourse. He didn't expect that there would be a rabbit master in such a world. Zhu Jun didn't have any memories, so everything was new. His worldview, outlook on life, and values had to be reshaped. Now that he saw this scene, Ning Shu didn't know how it would affect Zhu Jun's worldview. In fact, after seeing so much, he became indifferent. After all, it was just a matter of men and women. The next day, Ning Shu saw that Luo Yi's complexion was very good, and he even looked a little shy. Luo Yi accepted the mission and went out with the 2 skeletons. Ning Shu stayed at home and watched boring TV dramas. In fact, he was expanding his sea of consciousness to be able to accommodate more spiritual power. Not long after, Luo Yi came back with the 2 skeletons and the Shikigami. Ning Shu was surprised. You're back so early. He came back in an hour. Luo Yi was speechless. He went over and found the ghosts, but he directly crushed them to death and their souls scattered. Those malicious ghosts that made people tremble in fear were crushed to death by the skeletons. Moreover, when the malicious ghosts saw the skeletons, they were so scared that they ran away. They even begged Luo Yi, Master Celestial, I want to reincarnate. Please help me. Luo Yi was speechless. Therefore, Luo Yi quickly completed the mission. Luo Yi said, it's a bit of a waste to let the skeletons follow me to complete the mission. If the skeletons were to attack ordinary malicious ghosts, they wouldn't be able to fight back at all. There was really no need. Moreover, if the skeletons attacked, their souls would be scattered. Ning Shu said, then take on a harder mission and let them follow you. Luo Yi was speechless. Luo Yi didn't know why Ning Shu gave him the skeletons. Chapter 30-31. The black pond water in the cave bubbled, the water level kept dropping. Instead, the calamity beasts in the pond grew bigger and bigger. Some of the calamity beasts were humanoid, and some were strangely shaped like aliens. Their bodies were sticky, and they had no facial features, but they made people feel disgusted and horrified. The calamity beasts were growing at a very fast speed. The underworld had already sensed it and reacted quickly. Every time they sealed this kind of monster, it required a lot of manpower. Ning Shu was expanding his sea of consciousness at home. He opened his eyes, casually picked up 2 petals, divined, and sighed. The aura of heaven and earth had changed, it would come sooner or later. On this night, the weather was so dark that one couldn't even see their fingers. Even if it was a city that never sleeps, the neon lights were flickering, but this kind of darkness could almost swallow the lights of the city. A cold wind blew in the small apartment, a large number of Underworld's personnel were coming and going. The densely packed Een soldiers filled the entire apartment, and there were even more Een soldiers outside. The leader was a man wearing an official's hat. He looked very mighty. He should be the king of hell of the underworld. There were many kings of hell in the underworld. They were called this king, that king. They were in charge of different departments. Heavenly Master Shi stood in front of Luo Yi, and said with a fake smile, "King Qingguang of the underworld, we are honored to have you here." Behind him, Luo Yi's expression was a little sad, as if he had already foreseen his future. So many Een soldiers came, should he say that he was really important? King Qingguang said in a low voice, "The world's catastrophe is coming. Since Luo Yi is the destined person, he should complete his mission." Heavenly Master Shi couldn't help but sneer, "Why should we let him die so easily?" He still had a natural look, as if he was slaughtering cats and dogs. Why should Luo Yi sacrifice himself for the common people? He didn't have this responsibility. The heavens chose him, then let him die. Do you think we can really go back alive? King Qingguang frowned his thick eyebrows, looking very dignified. As he said that, he stared at Ning Shu and the two skeletons in the corner of the living room. He could see that the two skeletons had merit. What the hell was this? The catastrophe was coming, all kinds of demons and ghosts were coming out. Where did these skeletons come from? However, the more important thing now was to solve the problem of the monsters. This required Luo Yi's active cooperation. Luo Yi stepped out from behind Heavenly Master Shi and said, "I'm willing to go with you." Luo Yi, no. Heavenly Master Shi's face was filled with sorrow. He grabbed Luo Yi's arm and said, "Why is it you? Why is it you? Why must Luo Yi take on this mission? Shouldn't Luo Yi be protected like an ordinary person? There were so many people in the world. Why did it have to be Luo Yi?" Heavenly Master Shi roared angrily in his heart. He felt that the heavenly Tao was really unfair. They were all ants. Why couldn't it treat them equally? Why did it have to make an ant bear such a burden? Luo Yi smiled at Heaven Master Shi. His smile was especially bright and soft, causing Heaven Master Shi's heart to feel as if it had been pierced through. "What should I do without you? Luo Yi, are you really going to abandon me?" The powerful Heavenly Master Shi was extremely fragile at this moment. He was almost begging Luo Yi not to leave. This scene was really sad. King Qingguang coughed heavily and broke the atmosphere. He said, "Since Luo Yi has agreed to go, let's go now. That thing will be born soon." Heavenly Master Shi sneered, his face full of ridicule. "You people of the netherworld are high and mighty. Can't you solve this kind of thing by yourself? Why do you need a lowly ant to help you?" King Qingguang said, "This is the will of heaven. This is the will of heaven." The heavenly Tao would leave a glimmer of hope. Luo Yi was this glimmer of hope. King Qingguang was a little impatient. "If you don't let me go, I can only kill you. You know that if that thing is born, it will be a disaster for the whole world." Heavenly Master Shi had a kind of madness. He said, "I can't even keep the person I like. I love him. Mom, you still have to take care of the whole world. The world takes care of me, but the world takes care of Luo Yi. Why should we take care of the world? It's none of my business whether the world is destroyed or not. It's better to drag the world down with us." King Qingguang was too lazy to listen to his nonsense. He rolled up his sleeves and directly swept the two away. The Een soldiers majestically went to that place. Otherwise, if the monster was born and ran away, where could they find it? The originally narrow and crowded apartment suddenly became empty. Only Ning Shu and the two skeletons were left. Zhu Jun said to Ning Shu, "Pippy Shu, let's go too." Ning Shu turned to look at Zhu Jun, his eyes sharp. "What did you call me?" Zhu Jun said, "Recently, I went out with Luo Yi and learned some new words." Pippy Shu. Ning Shu's heart was filled with anger. "Pippy Shu, at first, he thought it was a mantis shrimp. Zhu Jun's expression was a little confused. Pippi Shu, isn't it the naughty and cute Ning Shu? Pippi Shu for short. Isn't that a compliment? Ning Shu. I'm with you. Whether the society is chaotic or not, Sister Shu has the final say. You're not allowed to call me Pippi Shu. Call me Sister Shu. Queen, lady, beauty, fairy, whatever it is, you can't call me Pippi Shu. It's not easy for people to learn, but it's a matter of minutes to learn bad things. How long has it been since she came to this world? He already started to give her nicknames. Zhu Jun, oh, I won't call you Pippi Shu in the future. Ning Shu, I already said, don't mention the name Pippi Shu. Ning Shu's expression was distorted. Bringing the two skeletons, he directly jumped through space and arrived at the place where the disaster beast was born. The whole place was surrounded by Yin soldiers. Ning Shu was waiting outside. Using his mental power to scan, the pool was almost dry. Instead, it was replaced by sticky black creatures. Their whole body was covered in black stuff. Moreover, this time, two giant creatures were born. From afar, Ning Shu smelled an unbearable stench. He hurriedly put on his mask and tied up his skirt. After all, the skirt that was dragged outside the umbrella could easily be contaminated. He had to ensure that his body was under the protection of the umbrella. Zhu Jun, Pippi Shu, what are we doing now? Don't talk to me. Ning Shu glared at him, don't call me Pippi Shu. Without any dignity, how could he command these skeletons in the future? Moreover, everyone had a tendency to follow the crowd. If one person called him Pippi Shu, it would be like a stormy sea of Pippi Shu, Pippi Shu. Ning Shu felt that this kind of team couldn't be brought out to show off at all. Ning Shu tied up his skirt and temporarily observed the situation. He wanted to let these people from the underworld consume some of the disaster beast's power. Chapter 30-32. First, exhaust the disaster beast, then let the two skeletons attack. This way, the chances of winning would be higher. This time, he only brought two skeletons over. One was an intern, and the other was a pure newcomer. It would be difficult for them to deal with the disaster beast. Therefore, the two skeletons had to kill the disaster beast in one hit. Otherwise, the longer the fight, the lower the chances of winning. Anyway, Ning Shu would not join such a battle. He would hide far away. The disaster beast could pollute the soul. The Yin soldiers present were shivering again. Their souls were trembling uncontrollably. If it was not for the mission, they would have probably scattered. Even if these Yin soldiers had not fought with the disaster beast yet, their souls had already begun to be polluted. Roar. There was a silent roar, as if it was announcing its birth. This roar seemed to have no emotions in it, but it was mixed with all kinds of desires. Looking. When people heard it, countless emotions were born in their hearts. Fear, horror, evil, and even lust. The huge disaster beast directly overturned a mountain. In the dark night, it was impossible to see the appearance of the two disaster beasts. The entire earth trembled violently again. An earthquake occurred. It caused a huge panic. The people who were immersed in the nightlife were frightened. Formation. King Qingguang shouted. Tens of thousands of Yin soldiers immediately began to arrange the formation. The formation could temporarily trap the disaster beast. A golden fishnet-like barrier fell from the sky. The two disaster beasts were struggling inside. The filthy aura on their bodies polluted the formation. The sticky liquid dripped on the ground, releasing a stench and extreme pollution. Some of the Yin soldiers whose souls were polluted immediately went crazy. Their souls completely turned black. They had no facial features. They were completely polluted from the inside out. They could not continue. King Qingguang personally made a move. After all, his strength was stronger than the average Yin soldier. He was also more resistant to pollution. Luo Yi, what are you waiting for? Release the blood formation core. King Qingguang shouted at Luo Yi. He did not say how much blood to release. In any case, he had to release all the blood in his body. The things that were given by the heavens were now all taken back. Even the souls were being taken away. Heavenly Master Shi's face was incomparably pale. He grabbed Luo Yi tightly and shouted at King Qingguang, I am also a heavenly master. Is my blood okay? The formation became dimmer and dimmer, and the disaster beast was about to break free from the formation. More and more Yin soldiers were contaminated, and they had to suppress their fear of this monster. It was human instinct to be afraid of dirty things, especially things like the disaster beast, which could be said to be the dirtiest thing. No matter how powerful the evil ghost was, it would not be able to fight it. King Qingguang held on bitterly. When he heard Heavenly Master Shi's words, he cursed, your blood is useless. Luo Yi, hurry up. If you don't take action, so many ghost soldiers will be sacrificed. The sacrifice is a small matter, but once the whole thing breaks free, what do you think will happen to the whole world? Heavenly Master Shi's eyes were bloodshot. This is moral kidnapping. What does the world have to do with Luo Yi? Heavenly Master Shi felt that he had not received any reward for what he had done for the entire world. Sometimes, he would even risk his life to deal with things that others could not see but were real. They protected ordinary people from being harmed by malicious ghosts and sent ghosts to the underworld so that they could wander the realms of the living and the dead. But now, what was the reward for everything he had done? The person he liked was about to be sacrificed, and it was all because of this world. Heavenly Master Shi only wanted Luo Yi to live. Even if he was killed by a malicious ghost in the end, he did not want him to bleed to death. King Qingguang gritted his teeth. Many of the Yin soldiers were contaminated. Without the control of the Yin soldiers, the formation would weaken a lot and there would be loopholes. These disaster beasts continued to struggle. When the formation reached the 0 point, it would collapse. If there was no external force, it would collapse sooner or later. Most of the Yin soldiers of the underworld had been brought over. In fact, these Yin soldiers were basically abandoned by the underworld. Since they were here, it was unlikely that they would survive. When the monsters were dealt with, the underworld would continue to recruit Yin soldiers and prepare for the next monster's birth. The cycle would repeat. King Qingguang's face was as black as a pot of ash. Even a soul like Ning Shu could be contaminated, King Qingguang would inevitably be contaminated as well. He saw the two of them chattering and being lovey-dovey. Once they were involved in love, they would be so lovey-dovey. They spoke as if only Luo Yi would die. There were so many of them, but less than 10% of them could return. Even if they returned, their souls would be contaminated and they would not be able to reincarnate. If the contamination was too serious, they would be disposed of directly to prevent the contamination of other souls. If they returned victorious, what they received was not applause and glory, not flowers and praise, but destruction. Who would they tell their grievances to? King Qingguang roared like thunder, Luo Yi, if you don't do it now, when are you going to do it? Luo Yi's heart was in a mess. On one hand, he liked the pleading of others. On the other hand, he was facing such a crisis. Luo Yi pulled out a sharp dagger. The cold light reflected from the back of the dagger shone on the despairing face of Heavenly Master Shi. Luo Yi slit his wrist. Fresh blood flowed out. Luo Yi endured the pain and dripped the blood into the formation. With the reinforcement of the extreme yang blood, the strength of the formation increased by a lot. The formation that enveloped the Calamity Beast lit up and made sizzling sounds when it came into contact with the Calamity Beast's body. Although Luo Yi's blood could strengthen the formation, there was only so much of a human body. Just the blood alone was not enough. Luo Yi's soul had to be sacrificed. Heavenly Master Shi's expression was numb as he hugged Luo Yi from behind. He whispered in Luo Yi's ear, "Don't be afraid, Luo Yi. Don't be afraid. I will accompany you." The heavens were really cruel. Luo Yi's face turned paler. This was a sign of excessive blood loss. His body swayed twice. If Heavenly Master Shi had not hugged him, he would have fallen to the ground. Drop by drop, blood flowed out of his body like water. That was his vitality. The fear of death overflowed his soul. He watched his own blood flow out of his body. The calamity beast roared silently. All the souls could not help but tremble, including Ning Shu. This was because it was too smelly. Ning Shu placed a few strands of the power of faith in Li Si and Zhu Jun's hands. He said, "This is the power of faith that can destroy the calamity beast. You can go over now. Find the right time to destroy it. You must kill it in one strike." Ning Shu did not know how much power of faith these strands of pure power of faith were worth. Just like merit granules, once they had a physical body, they must not be cheap. This kind of pure power of faith was more powerful than the other kind of power of faith. He had some of this kind of power of faith. In order to prevent Li Si and Zhu Jun from dying here, Ning Shu was willing to take out this power of faith. People were the most important. Chapter 30-33. The money spent on these two skeletons was much more than a few strands of faith power. He could not lose sight of the big picture for the small. Li Si and Zhu Jun took a few strands of pure silk strands. Zhu Jun said to Ning Shu, Pai Shu, "Stay here and don't move. Get lost." Ning Shu kicked Zhu Jun, but Zhu Jun dodged. "Be careful. If there's anything wrong, come back immediately." If even death could not destroy the disaster beast, then there was no need to sacrifice their lives. Zhu Jun and Li Si jumped a few times and arrived in front of the disaster beast. Zhu Jun thought for a while and took out a band-aid. He directly stuck it on Luo Yi's deep wound. Luo Yi's face was so pale that it was almost transparent. Seeing such a band-aid, he suddenly felt funny and touched. Although this band-aid could not stop the blood loss, Luo Yi felt warm in his heart. Other than Heavenly Master Shi, there was someone else who did not want him to die. When King Qingguang saw the sudden appearance of two skeletons, his eyes almost popped out. Why did someone come out to cause trouble again? What were they doing? The disaster beast that was trapped by the formation seemed to feel the danger and began to struggle violently. It was like a trapped beast fighting. Suddenly, a hole appeared in the formation. Li Si and Zhu Jun seized the opportunity and rushed towards the disaster beast with the power of faith in a straight line. King Qingguang's heart was extremely stifled. The couple was so lovey-dovey that they missed the best time. Although the monster was trapped now, a newly born monster was the weakest. Even if it was trapped, it would get stronger and stronger. Their chances of winning were getting lower and lower. Now, these skeletons came out of nowhere to cause trouble again. He felt that this world was going to end. If these monsters were allowed to walk freely in the human world, then the human world would become hell. All living things would be polluted. Ning Shu stood not far away and watched the skeletons fight with the disaster beast. He was very nervous. He was even more nervous than when he was fighting himself. If Li Si and Zhu Jun could destroy the disaster beast this time, then they would have the qualifications to destroy the disaster beast alone. Her world of reincarnation would no longer need to ask for external help. The corruption on the disaster beast was temporarily useless to the skeletons. The skeletons used the power of faith to consume the disaster beast's power. The strands of faith power grew longer and longer, wrapping around the calamity beast's body. The strands of faith power shrunk and sank into the calamity beast's body. The calamity beast seemed to be in extreme pain. It kept struggling and roaring. Finally, with a bang, the calamity beast exploded and was destroyed. However, there was some smoke floating around it. This could be considered as the corpse of an calamity beast. These particles would be carried by the wind to every corner of the world. Once they were diluted, the pollution would not be so great. This battle was exceptionally difficult. Li Si and Zhu Jun both had scratches on their bodies. These scratches were white inside, which was the original color of the bones. This meant that the merit only covered the surface and did not cover every part of the skeleton. First, it covered the surface. Then, it went deep inside. When every part of the body was forged by merit, it would be truly indestructible. How much merit points did that land consume? These scratches could only be repaired by merit. When the two newbies were fighting, they had taken many detours. Their bodies were covered with scratches and bite marks. There were even black filth that had seeped into their bones. All of them required merit grains. Fortunately, the two skeletons survived. Merit points could be earned again. If these skeletons were gone, then there would be one or two less. It could not be replenished for the time being. It was already very difficult to nurture more than 2,000 people. He would not make more skeletons for the time being. Ning Shu held the black bone umbrella. When the two calamity beasts exploded, the filth that erupted caused Ning Shu's black bone umbrella to turn black again. He had just spent money to clean it. In the end, it became dirty again. Ning Shu said to the two skeletons, "You did well this time. When we return, there will be rewards." The two skeletons were very tired. They lay on the ground and did not move. The death of the calamity beast made King Qingguang a little confused. He originally thought that being able to seal the monster was already a very good result. Especially when Luo Yi was not cooperating. King Qingguang felt that it would be very difficult to seal the monster. Since those skeletons could destroy the monster, then there was no need to sacrifice the destined person and so many Yin soldiers. Heavenly Master, sure, I don't have to die, right? Luo Yi could not find his voice. He looked at the band-aid on his wrist. The wound had already stopped bleeding and was no longer bleeding. His brain was muddled due to excessive blood loss. There was only one thought in his mind. He did not have to die. Heavenly Master sure hugged him and sobbed silently, "Yes, we are saved. We don't have to die." Luo Yi fainted. His body was cold. The heat seemed to be gradually leaving his body. Heavenly Master sure carried Luo Yi to the hospital in a panic. Luo Yi now needed a blood transfusion. He was about to return the blood in his body. If he received a normal blood transfusion, he might be able to survive. But from then on, he might lose his extreme young body. But this kind of body can be taken by whoever wants it. They arrived at the hospital as fast as the wind. Ning Shu was speechless. If he could find her and give her a little chance of survival, it would be more useful than going to the hospital. But since she did not look for her, Ning Shu was not worried. He hugged Luo Yi like a baby and ran away. King Qingguang, who had a full beard and thick eyebrows, walked towards Ning Shu. Looking at the skeleton lying on the ground, his eyes revealed a look of curiosity. What kind of creature was this? A skeleton? How could a body without a soul move? This thing seemed to be able to deal with the monster. This was simply a great thing. There was no need to sacrifice so much manpower, material resources, and lives to suppress and seal the monster. Ning Shu rejected King Qingguang's approach. "Stay away from me. You are so smelly and dirty." King Qingguang was strong. He did not lose his consciousness after being polluted. He might be able to slightly remove the pollution of his soul when he returned to the underworld, but it was impossible to completely remove it. King Qingguang stopped and kept a distance from Ning Shu. He had to speak loudly, "Who are you? These skeletons are yours. Ning Shu refused to answer such a stupid question. Instead, he said, "Since your mission has been completed, go where you should go." King Qingguang. Where to? King Qingguang asked. The reason why he was polite to a lonely ghost was because of the skeleton. Only skeletons were useful. And this female ghost watched the whole process. But these skeletons seemed to be her subordinates. King Qingguang was more polite to Ning Shu. He did not take these three to heart before. He did not expect that the skeletons would turn the tide. So, King Qingguang wanted to win the skeletons over to the underworld. In the future, even if monsters were to be born, these skeletons would be comparable to 100,000 Yin soldiers. Ning Shu saw that King Qingguang was thinking about the skeletons and was very unhappy. He rolled his eyes, of course, to the real hell. Your underworld can only be considered a fake hell. Chapter 30-34. Real hell, pseudo-hell. King Qingguang, what kind of speech is this? Facing one of the 10 kings of hell, it's fine if you're not afraid, but you even said that you want to send him, the king of hell, to hell. Ning Shu said to the two skeletons, "Don't be a corpse for now, let's finish this and go back." Ning Shu opened the black hole and said to King Qingguang, "Do you want to go in by yourself, or do you want me to let my darlings kick you in?" King Qingguang was dumbfounded, he had no idea what was going on. What is this? To be able to make a black hole appear in space, he couldn't do such a thing. This female ghost, "I am King Qingguang of the 10 kings of hell." King Qingguang revealed his identity. Ning Shu tilted his head and looked at him, "So? Didn't Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva say that if I don't enter hell, who will? If hell is not empty, he will not become a Buddha. I am helping him to become a Buddha, emptying hell and letting him become a Buddha. No need to thank me." Ning Shu said. King Qingguang, he still wanted to say something, but he was directly thrown into the black hole by the skeletons. King Qingguang wanted to struggle, but he was caught by the skeletons. He didn't even have the strength to struggle and was thrown into the black hole. Li Si and Zhu Jun put the surviving souls into the black hole, then followed Ning Shu into the barrier of the underworld and arrived at the underworld. The underworld was dark all year round, there were many ghosts. Ning Shu opened the black hole, and these souls were thrown into the black hole like dumplings. She discussed with the heavenly Tao for an entire night and divined for an entire night, chattering and nagging. In the end, they forcefully reached an agreement. Since the disaster beasts were dealt with, the matters of the underworld also had to be resolved. It was originally a world of living beings, the underworld was only temporarily established to deal with the souls. Now, let the souls go to where they should go, otherwise, if there were always disaster beasts being born, she would have to run to this world for no reason. Was she going to send skeletons to this world to suppress it? That was absolutely impossible. She didn't have many skeletons. In the end, she had to send the skeletons that she had painstakingly nurtured to guard a world of living beings. Ning Shu directly spat, she was dreaming, he would definitely not agree. He wanted to tear down the underworld and send all the souls into the world of reincarnation. The underworld was in chaos. There were many souls in Fengdu necropolis alone. Now, they were running in all directions, but they were all chased into the black hole by Li Si and Zhu Jun, who dares to disturb hell. The King Yenluo of hell, Oxhead, Horseface, the Soul Hunters, and all of the other employees of hell immediately raised their weapons. The two skeletons continued to drive the souls away. It seemed like these souls that were slightly more powerful were not willing to enter the world of samsara. Ning Shu stretched out his vines and threw the souls of King Yama, Oxhead, Horseface, and the like into the black hole. However, there were quite a number of souls in hell. Some of them were still being tortured. Some of them had to go through hell, and some of them were dragged into the world of reincarnation. There was no such torture in the world of samsara, but the reincarnation pool would gently draw out a part of the soul strength. The Lake of Rebirth was absolutely fair. At the end of the day, hell was still a human department. As long as one was a human, there would always be cases of injustice and falsehood. It guaranteed the basic operations of hell on the whole, but there would definitely be a lot of disagreements in private. The Lake of Rebirth wouldn't do that. If you have too much filth and evil creatures on your body, it would be especially difficult to purify them. Sorry, I have to draw out more of your soul strength. Then, if a part of your soul strength was drawn out, who knows what else you can produce. With an unstoppable momentum, all the souls were dragged into the world of samsara, including King Yenluo, Oxhead, Horseface, Mengpa, and the like. The underworld, which was originally very crowded, was now empty. Now that the hell was about to be torn apart, Mengpo's soup was a soup that made people lose their memories. On the other hand, the Book of Life and Death had a feeling of the intersection of yin and yang. It was fluctuating with spiritual energy. It was obviously a magic treasure. Ning Shu kept the Book of Life and Death. It would be a waste if he didn't take it. There were a lot of mysterious things in hell. It wasn't good to expose them to the human world. Now, he only needed to remove the barrier and let the sun shine in to disperse the yin energy. Ning Shu looked for the array core of the formation. It was more convenient to destroy it directly from the array core. After all, it was more strenuous to break the barrier with his fists. However, after searching for a long time, he still couldn't find the array core. This made Ning Shu a little puzzled. The barrier clearly separated the human world and hell. How could there be no array core? Ning Shu stood on the bridge of helplessness. He could faintly feel the fluctuations of the bridge of helplessness. There was a faint fluctuation of a treasure. This bridge of helplessness was also a treasure. Ning Shu's mind was enlightened. This bridge of helplessness shouldn't be the core of the formation. It might even be a barrier stone. Ning Shu squatted down and touched the bridge of helplessness. He sensed for a moment. The barrier radiated from this. In other words, the bridge of helplessness was actually made of barrier stones. So many. Ning Shu had a feeling of making a fortune. There were so many of them. He didn't know if he could sell them for money. His family was a little poor. Ning Shu immediately moved the bridge of helplessness away without thinking. Ning Shu directly lifted the bridge of helplessness by himself and threw it into the world of reincarnation. Such a big thing, the system space couldn't fit it. He could only put it in the world of reincarnation. Fortunately, the world of reincarnation was big enough. Zhu Jun, Pai Pai Shu's strength is really great. Li Si, don't call her like that. She will get angry. This great aunt has a bad temper. It's fine if she has a bad temper, but she also likes to let others call her fairy. She piled adjectives that had nothing to do with herself. Zhu Jun, isn't she deceiving herself? Or is there something that blinded her eyes? Pai Pai Shu is quite suitable for her. Ning Shu was dismantling the bridge over there. The two skeletons were ridiculing her. As soon as the bridge of helplessness disappeared, the barrier of the underworld also disappeared. The sun shone in and the yin qi scattered. Even so, the underworld had existed for an unknown period of time. The dense yin qi wouldn't disappear in a short period of time. Ning Shu used the vines to directly destroy the huge buildings of the underworld. He also destroyed the torture tools that tortured the souls. Without the underworld, this world would become a lot bigger. It was originally a world that was divided into two. Now, it was all a world of living beings. However, this kind of place probably couldn't be inhabited for many years. The yin qi was too heavy. Moreover, the soil couldn't be cultivated under the erosion of the yin qi. The red spider lilies that grew would also wither. After solving the problem of the souls of the underworld, Ning Shu began to build a passage that connected the two worlds. After consulting with the elder, Ning Shu's speed of building the space passage was much faster. Moreover, it was more stable. The interior and exterior were reinforced. Now, once the souls of this world died, their souls would directly enter the world of reincarnation and be unified. Even if there were misfortune beasts, they would be born in the world of reincarnation and killed by the skeletons. Chapter 30-35. Ning Shu finally heaved a sigh of relief after the underworld's matter was resolved. Another world was resolved. Ning Shu wanted to climb up to the 6th level again. He didn't know what kind of world the 6th level would be. He felt that the 9-Palace Mountain was like a box. If he didn't open it, no one would know what was inside. Ning Shu got a lot of merit granules for Li Si and Zhu Jun. Because they were injured, they needed a lot of merit to recover. After eating the merit, the wounds on the 2 skeletons gradually disappeared. Ning Shu was a little worried. To nurture skeletons, not only did the surface have to be dazzling, even the inside of the bones had to be golden. Otherwise, they would be strong on the outside but weak on the inside. He couldn't imagine how much merit would be needed. In short, he was worried that he didn't have money. He also couldn't get a lot of money. He didn't have a fixed source of income. She didn't have much to rely on just buying things. With so many people crying piteously for food, Ning Shu was so worried that he wanted to leave the stall and quit. He was comfortable alone, he was full and the whole family wasn't hungry. Now, no one had enough to eat. The matter is resolved, we should go back. Ning Shu said to the skeleton. Li Si was a little hesitant. Ning Shu asked, "Can I stay in this world for a while? I want to look for young master." Ning Shu, I can't tell you that without connecting to the world of reincarnation, your young master might not be reborn in this world. Ning Shu handed the Book of Life and Death to Li Si. Why do you need to look all over the world? Use this to check. This thing was like the demon revealing mirror. It recorded a person's life in detail. This kind of treasure was simply amazing. It should be an innate treasure that was born from heaven and earth. It was probably created to create the underworld and make it easier for people to manage. The Book of Life and Death looked like a book, but it actually recorded a lot of things. Everything in this world, even snakes, insects, and ants were recorded. Thank you. Li Si took the Book of Life and Death and began to flip through the pages. Zhu Jun said to Ning Shu, "We have nothing to do now. Why don't we find Luo Yi? Isn't Luo Yi sick?" "We're going to visit the patient," Zhu Jun said. Ning Shu looked at him from the corner of his eyes. "When did you two become so close?" "I followed him around this world for a while. When I was free, I even went out to catch ghosts. He's sick, so there's nothing wrong with visiting him." "Pippi Shu, shall we go?" Ning Shu, "No. I could have gone, but since your name is Pai Pai Shu, I don't want to go." Not going. Zhu Jun said, "We're leaving soon. Let's go and say hello to them. We still have to do them a favor." Ning Shu, "I don't owe him any favors." If we're talking about favors, Luo Yi was destined to die. Now that he's still alive, no matter how big the favor is, it's already been repaid. She had followed Luo Yi into the tomb to find the spirit pearl, but when she was discussing with the heavenly Tao, she had also saved his life. Ning Shu said, "If you want to go, then go take a look. Li Si and I will stay here to read the Book of Life and Death." Zhu Jun sat down. "If you're not going, then I won't go either." Li Si had been looking for Pai Lupi for a long time. If he knew his name, it would be fine. He could know his past and present life, but the problem was that he didn't know. There were so many living beings in this world. It was a bit difficult to find them one by one and compare them to his young master. Who knew if a dog's past life was Pai Lupi? Ning Shu didn't want to stay in a place with a lot of yin qi. Because souls were gathered together, there were more impurities. He asked Li Si to take the Book of Life and Death to the small apartment. There was no one there. Luo Yi was in the hospital now, and Li Si had been holding the Book of Life and Death. He didn't give up. Although Ning Shu said that his young master theoretically wouldn't be in this world. He waited for Li Si to finish reading the Book of Life and Death before leaving. What if Pai Lupi really appeared in this world? So he waited. Heaven Master Shi came back to get a change of clothes for Luo Yi. When he saw the skeleton and female ghost in the room, he didn't say anything and went straight to pack the clothes. In a short period of time, Heaven Master Shi had lost weight and looked very haggard. However, he was still in good spirits. Luo Yi should be fine. Otherwise, Heavenly Master Shi would be so depressed that he would rather die than live. Ning Shu asked politely, "How is Luo Yi?" Heaven Master Shi stopped and said to Ning Shu, "He's fine. He just lost too much blood. His body will be weak in the future. He'll be fine after some nourishment. Besides, there won't be so many malicious ghosts in the future. It's quite safe," Ning Shu said. After all, souls would enter the world of reincarnation immediately. The netherworld would take souls away manually. It was inevitable that there would be mistakes. Heaven Master Shi was speechless. Saying that there wouldn't be so many malicious ghosts in the future in front of Heaven Master was actually cursing Heaven Master for having no business. Although Ning Shu was telling the truth, Heaven Master Shi didn't take it to heart. After all, this female ghost killed the monster and didn't sacrifice Luo Yi. This was enough for Heaven Master Shi to be very tolerant of her. "You can say whatever you want." Zhu Jun said, "Say hello to Luo Yi for me." After a pause, he said, "Can you lend me your computer? Your boyfriend's computer lags too much." After coming to this world, the first thing Zhu Jun learned was the internet. Although he didn't know the words in this world, playing games didn't discriminate between national boundaries and languages. Heaven Master Shi was speechless. Heaven Master Shi had to buy a new computer for Zhu Jun. He wouldn't give his computer to Zhu Jun. There were a lot of information and important things in it. Zhu Jun took the new laptop and played happily. Ning Shu looked at the skeleton addicted to the internet and asked, "Is it fun?" "It's quite fun. Pippi Shu, I think the world of reincarnation should also have an internet cable. Then you can know everything in the world of reincarnation." Zhu Jun's skeleton fingers clicked the mouse quickly. Although it was a skeleton, its hand speed in games could kill many people in seconds. Ning Shu sneered. "You want an internet cable? Why don't you go to heaven?" After coming out, the skeleton's heart became wild. Li Si was not so bad. He was originally an ancient person and was not interested in these high-tech things. He was relatively slow. On the contrary, Zhu Jun, who knew nothing and had no worldview, accepted this kind of thing very quickly. Ning Shu said, "Pull an internet cable." "Just wait." Zhu Jun asked, "How long do I have to wait?" Ning Shu said, "About the time when the sea runs dry and the rocks crumble." Zhu Jun said, "Isn't the time when the sea runs dry and the rocks crumble for you? With the law of water and the law of earth, without the sea, the rocks would crumble. It was just a matter of raising one's hand." "Hey, I find that you especially like to talk back to me. When I said the sea runs dry and the rocks crumble, it meant that it would take a long, long time. You have to measure it with the time of ordinary people." Ning Shu said angrily. As long as there was an organization's internet, there were many things to connect to and play. Emperor's Way only BQG 3s. Chapter 30-36. But Zhu Jun, a skeleton, couldn't connect to the organization's network. What could she do? She had to create it herself. She had to wait until the sea ran dry and the rocks crumbled. Ning Shu felt a little depressed when he thought about it. Li Si flipped through the Book of Life and Death, Zhu Jun played on the computer. Ning Shu had nothing to do, so he said, "You stay in this world. I'll go back first." There were still some things to do in the world of samsara. And she hadn't done any tasks for a long time. If she didn't do any tasks, she wouldn't have the power of the soul. Apart from these external things, the power of the soul was the only thing that could strengthen herself. The world of samsara couldn't strengthen her soul, nor could these skeletons. Instead, she had to keep feeding them. She kept running around. These external things could make her stronger, but they didn't have a direct effect. The soul had to absorb the power of the soul and store some to avoid any problems in the future. In fact, the power of the soul was very precious and couldn't be bought or sold. Even the power of faith and merits were used as currency, but the power of the soul wasn't. She couldn't find a place to buy it. The organization was very strict in this aspect. Zhu Jun asked, "When will you pick me up? We can't stay here all the time." Ning Shu said, "I think you're having a good time playing games. Why do you still want to go back?" Zhu Jun said, "Pippi Shu, you're wrong. Work is work, and entertainment is entertainment." Ning Shu said, "Then you're having a good time." When she returned to the world of samsara, the internet addiction would make her feel uncomfortable. She had to do tasks. If her soul suffered a destructive blow, she had to have some food. When she was sucked dry by Jingqing, her soul was in a state of dissipation at any time. A little injury was enough to make her soul dissipate. Li Si put down the book of life and death and sighed. Although skeletons couldn't make expressions, they were full of sadness. "You finished reading so quickly. You didn't find the person you were looking for." Zhu Jun knew Li Si was looking for someone. "No, let's go back," Li Si said. He looked at Ning Shu and asked, "Can't this book of life and death search for other worlds?" Ning Shu shook his head, "Oh, that won't do. After all, he was born in this world, so he should only be in charge of this world. Perhaps if he was placed in the world of reincarnation, he could slowly record the souls of the reincarnation world. Maybe I can slowly find out. Let's just wait." Ning Shu picked up the life and death book. This was a treasure, and he couldn't lose it. Zhu Jun closed the computer and prepared to take it back to the world of samsara. Ning Shu said, "There is no electricity or internet in the world of samsara. What's the use of bringing it back?" Zhu Jun said, "Pippi Shu, I think the world of samsara should make great efforts to develop science and technology. The world of living beings is developing rapidly, and the world of samsara can't fall behind. Even if we live in the world of samsara, we can't just make do." Ning Shu hooked his finger at Zhu Jun, "Come over here." Zhu Jun came to Ning Shu's side. Ning Shu reached out and patted his shiny skull. "Do you think the world of samsara is a place for people to enjoy after death? The world of living beings is restricted by the heavenly axiom, but the world of samsara basically doesn't. Any development is a burden to the world of samsara. There were all kinds of planes, but the world of samsara was the same. Otherwise, there were so many worlds of samsara that were exactly the same. The world of samsara was a transfer station for souls. Souls could stay here for a long time, but for people who were eager to leave, it was very short. What was the point of developing it? The reincarnation pool was already a huge burden to the world, and now it was increasing the burden to the world. Of course, Ning Shu wouldn't be harsh on Zhu Jun. After all, Zhu Jun didn't know anything. It was normal for him to mention such things. Zhu Jun touched the top of his head and nodded, "I see." Ning Shu warned, "When you go back in the future, don't call him Pai Pai Shu, especially in front of so many people. If nothing unexpected happened, many skeletons would be brought by Zhu Jun in the future. After all, Zhu Jun was the first skeleton to become strong." Zhu Jun made an "oh" sound. "Then what should I call you? Don't call me lady or something like that. I sincerely suggest that even if you want to give yourself a stage name, you should choose it according to your situation. It can't be too out of place. How did he train his mouth? After coming to this world, he felt as if someone had poured spiritual energy into him from the top of his head and he became an expert. He actually insulted her. Ning Shu sneered, then what do you think you should call me? Pay attention to your words, or you won't get any more merit grains next time. Zhu Jun said, isn't it good to call you boss? You can call him Pai Pai Shu in private. That's our love for you. I really thank you for your love. Ning Shu didn't give in to the way she called him. This concerned her dignity in the future. Even the title of female devil sounded better than Pai Pai Shu. Ning Shu brought the two skeletons to the hospital to see Luo Yi. Luo Yi's face was as white as a ghost. It seemed that he was really weak. With so much blood gone, it was already not bad to be able to keep his life. When Luo Yi opened his eyes, he saw a female ghost and two skeletons. He was almost scared, but he struggled to sit up and said weakly, you guys came. Thank you for coming to see me. Ning Shu made an "n" sound, we have to go. In any case, we got along with each other, so we came to say goodbye to you. Luo Yi quickly asked, where are you guys going? Zhu Jun said, to hell. There's no place for us in this world. Ning Shu couldn't help but glance at him. He was really good at acting. He wasn't from this world to begin with. What did he mean by there was no place for them? Crazy. Luo Yi quickly said, you guys can live with me. Moreover, you guys can eliminate monsters, so the underworld won't make things difficult for you. One ghost and two skeletons were silent. Sorry, we seem to have made things difficult for the underworld. Now the underworld no longer exists. Ning Shu said, it's good that you're fine. Live on and be lovey-dovey with Heavenly Master Shi. It wasn't easy for the two of them to come all the way here. It could be said that they got what they wanted. Thank you, will you guys come back? Then Luo Yi patted his head, look at what I said. You guys went to the underworld and reincarnated. You definitely won't come back. Zhu Jun reached out and patted his shoulder, I'm leaving. Ning Shu opened the black hole and walked in. The two skeletons followed behind him. The black hole quickly closed and disappeared. The door of the ward was pushed open. Heavenly Master Shi walked in with a thermos. When he saw Luo Yi sitting up, he looked a little lost and asked, why did you sit up? Lie down and rest. I stewed soup for you. It's all blood nourishing. It's a diet prescription prescribed by an old Chinese medicine doctor. Heavenly Master Shi said. The female ghost and skeleton just left. They just left. I didn't even have time to say thank you. Luo Yi sighed. Heavenly Master Shi said, we'll meet again if fate allows. Drink the soup. He fed Shi Tianshi spoonful by spoonful. Emperor's Way only BQG 3, S. Chapter 30-37. The room was quiet and cozy. After the catastrophe, they cherished the chance to live more than anyone else. After all, they almost became friends of life and death, and could never be together again. Ning Shu and the two skeletons returned to the world of reincarnation. A modeled bridge was placed in the world of reincarnation. With another world soul, the world of reincarnation looked a little more lively. The souls who were suffering in the underworld were almost jumping for joy. Because there was no need to climb a mountain of swords or plunge into a sea of fire, no need to have their tongues cut off, no need to have their stomachs cut open. The hundreds of years of torture all ended in an instant. It was simply too blissful. However, these cheering souls did not realize how weak their souls were, nor did they realize that there was a black aura floating around their bodies. Since they were convicted in the underworld, they were guilty. As long as they wanted to be reborn, the rebirth pool would punish them. The staff of the underworld sighed. They were thrown into this place, the management of this place was too lax. These souls could do whatever they wanted. Ningshu handed the Book of Life and Death to Li Si to manage. Since Li Si wanted to find his master, then perhaps the rebirth pool would slowly record the souls that came to this world. It would be able to find out a person's past and present life. Li Si was very happy to take care of the Book of Life and Death. He said that he would definitely protect it well. Ning Shu said to Zhu Jun, "Now you have to take care of those skeletons. You must not let anything happen to those skeletons, understand?" Zhu Jun nodded, "I understand. Also, you have to observe the rebirth pool. The rebirth pool will give birth to misfortune beasts. You have already seen the misfortune beasts, right?" Zhu Jun, "I understand." Ning Shu gave him some merit grains, "Take these. If there are any skeletons that are worth nurturing or stand out, you can give them some missions. No matter what the mission is, as long as you don't hurt the skeletons, you can give them to the skeletons after completion." Zhu Jun took the merit grains and asked, "Is it training?" "It can be considered as training, but skeletons without merit are very weak. You can't use force to train them. More of it is used for mental training. If he used a little force, the skeletons might split open and scatter a little. Now, the most important thing was to learn." "I will, don't worry." Zhu Jun nodded seriously and asked, "When are we going to the world of living beings? What do you want from the living world?" He had just returned, and now he wanted to go. "I keep thinking about everything. I feel like my mind is empty, very empty, so empty that it's uncomfortable," Zhu Jun said. Ning Shu nodded. "Your brain is indeed empty. If there was no medulla in the brain, he wouldn't even dare to knock on the top of the skull. If he knocked on the top of the skull, he might end up with a hole." Ning Shu thought for a moment and said, "There will be opportunities in the future. After all, he had to take these skeletons to see the billions of planes and form a worldview." Ning Shu really wanted these skeletons to grow up quickly and become stronger. Moreover, when they gathered together, they could form a huge skeleton. Every step he took caused the ground to tremble. She was standing on the skeleton's shoulder. It was too fucking cool. Ning Shu felt his blood boil just thinking about it. Ning Shu's eyes lit up like light bulbs. Zhu Jun waved his hand in front of Ning Shu's face. Pai Shu, are you okay? You were distracted. Did you hear what I said?" "Ning Shu, I didn't hear you." "Say it again." Zhu Jun, "Actually, I didn't say anything." Zhu Jun returned to the group of skeletons. Some skeletons stared at Zhu Jun, but most of them looked at the boxes of merit grains that Zhu Jun was pulling. They were yellow and dazzling. Some skeletons actually rushed up to snatch the merit grains. Everyone had eaten merit grains before. Instinct was definitely a good thing. Some skeletons without intelligence could only rely on instinct. They directly snatched them. Zhu Jun directly kicked the skeleton away. The skeleton fell to the ground with a plop. Fortunately, it didn't fall apart. However, more skeletons pounced on him. Some skeletons were watching, carefully sizing up Zhu Jun, trying to see something from him. As time passed, these skeletons' intelligence would slowly recover. Of course, this was also a kind of competition. If they recovered slowly, they would definitely fall behind. Of course, there were also skeletons who started low and walked high. However, those who walked in front were generally stronger than those who walked behind. As time passed, the gap between them would grow bigger and bigger. Zhu Jun twisted his neck until it made cracking sounds. He knew that he had to fight. If he didn't fight, these skeletons wouldn't be afraid of him. He had merit grains in his hands, and they would always come to snatch them. Zhu Jun felt that this was quite good. If they had the ability, they could snatch them. Apart from some skeletons who were controlled by instinct, some skeletons waved flags and shouted but didn't join the battle. Some skeletons watched indifferently. Some skeletons were not in the right state and didn't pay attention to the situation here at all. Zhu Jun's strength was much stronger than these skeletons who had only eaten a few merit grains. After defeating these skeletons, he sat on the box. As long as you defeat me, I will take out a portion of the merit grains. Or you can fight. Whoever wins, I will give the merit grains. How about that? It's fine as long as you don't overdo it. However, swords have no eyes. Therefore, you must protect yourself well. Zhu Jun opened the box and took out a merit grain. He threw it into his mouth and chewed. The sound was very loud. I defeated you. This is my reward. Zhu Jun said. You are welcome to challenge me at any time. Zhu Jun directly lay on the boxes and closed his eyes to rest. Of course, he didn't have eyelids, so he couldn't close his eyes. These skeletons scratched their ears and cheeks. One by one, they thought of ways to snatch the merit grains. Some of the more simple-minded skeletons didn't think of a way at all and directly rushed up. However, they were all beaten back by Zhu Jun. They couldn't even touch the boxes. Since they couldn't do it by force, they could only use their wits. There were so many of them. If they all attacked together, they could crush that skeleton to death. Some of the skeletons' personalities were already quite obvious. Some liked to use their brains and liked to scheme. Some were suitable to be the vanguard. They directly went up and started fighting. Some used both their brains and their hands. There were loners and those who liked to cooperate. Ning Shu watched from the side for a while. He felt that this kind of training shouldn't be fatal to the skeletons. If something really happened, they would die. It was also because the team was gradually eliminating the weak. In fact, it was as strict as the mission enforcers. Ning Shu took a stone from the Bridge of Helplessness. The entire Bridge of Helplessness was built with boundary stones. Even a boundary stone as big as a brick was very precious. Not to mention, the Bridge of Helplessness was built with so many boundary stones. He planned to take it back and see if it could be fused with the Soul Pearl. He wanted to try his best to replicate the process of the formation of the world of reincarnation. Ning Shu held the brick in his hand. He was stopped by someone. It was a girl. Ning Shu was in a good mood now. He looked at her and said, "Why haven't you gone to the world of reincarnation yet?" He Qing had always said that she wanted to follow him. He thought that she had given up and was still in the world of reincarnation. Emperor's only BQG 3s. Chapter 30-38. The girls who were locked up in the city lord's mansion by the law of earth seemed to have gone to the afterlife. Even if they didn't go to the afterlife, they didn't have such a strong will like He Qing. He Qing asked Ning Shu, "Well, is my soul qualified?" Ning Shu took a look. He Qing's soul was stronger than before. It was admirable that she could slowly strengthen her soul in the world of reincarnation. Even if there were fruits that could strengthen the soul in the world of reincarnation, the effect was minimal. How many fruits did He Qing eat to strengthen her soul? Now that Cheng Qing was gone, even if she was sent to the system for identification, she wouldn't be able to successfully enter the organization without 2 guarantors. In the past, 2333 was counted as a person, but now it was a backup system. It couldn't be counted as a person at all. Even if she wanted to recommend a talent to the organization, she needed a guarantor. Although the guarantor didn't need to be responsible for the person's future actions, once something happened, the source could be traced back. Just like the ancient imperial examination, the students who entered the examination needed a guarantor. If there was fraud in the imperial examination, even the guarantor would be implicated. Therefore, even if He Qing's soul was qualified, she couldn't recommend her. After all, she still needed a guarantor. If she found another person, she would have to pay a favor. Her relationship with He Qing wasn't good enough to owe her a favor. Although it wasn't a big matter, she still owed her a favor. What good would it do her to recommend He Qin to the organization? To put it bluntly, He Qin was a stranger. Would she do her best for a stranger? She saved He Qin, but it didn't mean that she would be responsible for He Qin's life. Then she would be exhausted to death. Ning Shu asked, "How did you strengthen your soul?" Ning Shu didn't believe that just by eating some wild fruits could strengthen the soul. Regardless of whether others believed it or not, she wouldn't believe it. If she had nothing to do, she would just go find some fruits to eat. Why would she do tasks? He Qing's expression looked a little hesitant. Obviously, she didn't want to tell him how to strengthen her soul. Ning Shu curled his lips. Why should I help you when you are so selfish? Ning Shu took the brick and walked around He Qin. He Qin quickly caught up with Ning Shu and said, "I'll tell you how to strengthen my soul. You can let me leave this place and become like you." Ning Shu shook his head. "I'm not interested in your method of strengthening your soul." This kind of impure method did not interest him at all. Although He Qin's soul was much stronger than before, the impurities in her soul were much greater than before. This kind of unorthodox method was usually risky, so when He Qin made a deal with him, Ning Shu's heart didn't waver at all. He Qin was anxious. She really didn't have any capital at all. Since the other party said that her soul wasn't strong enough, then she would work hard to strengthen her soul. However, she didn't know that she was dispensable to Ning Shu. She wasn't a talent that he urgently needed. The organization had its own way of recruiting talents. Ning Shu was like an employee of the company. He didn't need to worry about the company's employees. At most, he just needed to recommend them. However, recommending someone was something that he was too lazy to bother with. If one day Ning Shu needed a talent and could make her own decisions, she might consider it. So when He Qin heard Ning Shu's indifferent words, she was completely dumbfounded. What kind of people were the most difficult to deal with? They were people who had no desires. What you had was unattractive to them. You were helpless, and they would just silently watch. You couldn't find their weakness, and you couldn't give them anything that could move them. This kind of feeling was very terrible. He Qin's mood was terrible. She was full of hope and an indescribable pride as she walked in front of Ning Shu. "You said that my soul wasn't qualified, but my soul is now qualified." Her previous pace was disrupted, but the other party was still indifferent. The only possibility was to tell him the secret of a strong soul, but even if he did, it didn't mean that she could leave this place. If she was just an ordinary woman who hadn't been brought to a world that she couldn't touch and had never heard of by a powerful man, then jumping into the reincarnation pool and starting a new life would be reasonable. However, she had already seen another kind of life. She didn't want to live that kind of life again. She couldn't even guarantee what she would be in her next life. What would her impermanent fate send her to? Animals? Humans, even if they were humans, had tragic fates. That unpredictable fate wasn't what He Qin wanted. However, she really didn't have anything to bargain with him. He Qin was no longer as high-spirited as before. Ning Shu said, "If I tell you, can you let me leave this place?" Ning Shu shook his head. "I already said that I'm not interested." He wanted to try to see if he could fuse the barrier stone with the soul pearl. He didn't know if he could fuse them. It seemed that when he absorbed the barrier stone, the soul pearl had already formed a black hole. Ning Shu's mind was constantly thinking, and he completely ignored He Qin. He Qin took a deep breath and said, "Some souls have no consciousness. They're just a mass of gas floating around. However, they still have soul power. Thus, absorbing such souls can strengthen one's soul." After He Qin finished speaking, she carefully glanced at Ning Shu and said, "This isn't wrong, right?" "It's right. Those souls had no consciousness. After floating around for a while, their souls directly scattered. This kind of soul power without consciousness was floating around in this world. It was a bit wasteful. Ning Shu wanted to collect these souls that didn't even have the instinct to jump into the reincarnation pool. Or collect the soul power scattered in the world of reincarnation. He Qin gave him a new idea. She basically didn't interfere with the reincarnation of souls in the world of reincarnation. However, those souls that were too weak to reincarnate and had lost consciousness could be collected. Ning Shu pondered. It would be a waste to leave them in the world of reincarnation. Moreover, they would be slowly absorbed by the reincarnation pool, increasing the burden of the reincarnation pool. He Qin clasped her hands together tightly and looked at Ning Shu nervously. Since you've inspired me, Ning Shu said, I can give you a test first. If you can't pass, then forget it. Thank you. He Qin breathed a sigh of relief. As long as there was a chance, the rest should be feasible. She had also absorbed a lot of soul power. Eating wild fruits wasn't helpful to the soul. Although the fruits contained a part of the soul power, compared to the soul, the fruits were useless. They had to find souls without consciousness. If the souls with consciousness resisted, they might be devoured instead. He Qin had lived in this world for a while. She had seen the struggle between souls. There was no blood, but it was very cruel. Chapter 30-39. Some souls would devour other souls to make their own souls stronger. Then they would jump into the pool of rebirth. The stronger the soul, the better the conditions for their rebirth. Maybe it was because of the extra soul power that they could rebirth into a beast, but with a little extra soul power, they could become a human. Of course, not every soul knew about this unspoken rule. Those who knew or wanted to rebirth would try their best to make their souls stronger before rebirth. He Qin knew about it by accident. That was why she could strengthen her soul and appear in front of Ning Shu. Ning Shu opened the black hole and walked in. Seeing He Qin standing there in confusion, he said, "Follow me." He Qin clenched her fists and followed Ning Shu into the black hole. Then they appeared in the system space. He Qin looked around. The windows were bright and clean. It was good in the dark and gloomy world of reincarnation, where there was no day or night. There was an indescribable pressure. It was too bright. He Qin reflexively covered her eyes with her hands. Even if she was a soul and not a body, she could still feel the dazzling light. Ning Shu said to the system, "Scan her and see if her soul is qualified." Suddenly, He Qin felt as if something had swept past her body. It was extremely penetrative, and every inch of her body was clearly seen by this person. He Qin's face couldn't help but show a look of humiliation. Ning Shu lit some agarwood. Seeing He Qin's expression, he said, "It's not a person. It's just a system. Don't feel like you're being peeped at." It was the same as an ultrasound. He Qin said, "Oh." Her whole body was tense. She was very nervous. When she smelled the fragrance, she relaxed a little. Looking at Ning Shu sitting on the sofa, her eyes were full of envy. This was the life she envied. She didn't have to live in the dark and colorless world of reincarnation. How poetic it was to arrange flowers and burn incense. The feeling of being peeped at was gone. He Qin looked at Ning Shu. Ning Shu asked, "Is it qualified?" The system replied emotionlessly, "Not qualified." He Qin's body trembled. Her expression was ugly. She was sad and unconvinced. Ning Shu asked, "Where did you fail?" "The purity of the soul is not up to standard. There are too many impurities that will contaminate the client's body." The system wouldn't care about He Qin's feelings. Of course, it would say whatever it wanted to say. Ning Shu said that this was a foreseeable outcome. If the previous He Qin's soul was not strong enough and she had absorbed the soul power, the side effect was that there were too many impurities. After absorbing soul energy that wasn't pure, his soul would become impure. In short, He Qin had no way of becoming a mission enforcer. Didn't they say that it's fine if one's soul is strong? Why is it not working now? He Qing was on the verge of collapse. She had worked so hard and waited so long for her soul to be qualified. Now, what kind of purity was this? What purity? Was there such a thing as a pure soul? He Qing couldn't accept that her hope had been shattered. She squatted on the ground and buried her head in her hands, crying. What else could Ning Shu say? There was nothing he could say, and any words of comfort would pale in comparison. Moreover, her relationship with He Qing was just that. Ever since He Qing told her about devouring souls, she had already expected it. If their souls were not strong enough, they were afraid that the mission enforcers would directly collapse when traveling through the plains. They would also be troubled by the residual emotions of the mission enforcers. They would not be able to complete the mission properly. Soul purity was to prevent the mission enforcer's soul from contaminating the mission enforcer's body. The mission enforcer's body might contaminate the mission enforcer's soul. On the other hand, if the mission enforcer's soul was too tainted, it would contaminate the mission enforcer's body. When the mission enforcer returned, it would contaminate the mission enforcer's soul. The mission enforcer had already offered a portion of their soul power. Now that their soul had been contaminated, another portion of their soul power would be taken away by the rebirth pool the next time they were reborn. Originally, they could be reborn as humans. However, because of the serious contamination of the soul, they could only be reborn as animals. This was very unfair to the mission enforcer. After all, mission enforcers who offered all their soul power were in the minority. Even fewer souls would not return to their bodies. In any case, Ning Shu had already done what he could. He opened the black hole and said to He Qing, although your soul now has a lot of impurities, it's strong enough. You can be reborn as a human. He Qing could not accept this. Why couldn't she? Her eyes were red as she said to Ning Shu, didn't you say that it's okay to have a strong soul? But my soul is already strong. He Qing felt like she was being toyed with. From the beginning, he said it was impossible. Now that she had achieved it, he used another excuse to dismiss her. It was too infuriating. Under the blow of disappointment and being deceived, He Qing looked at Ning Shu with a strange gaze. It was filled with disgust and suspicion. Ning Shu spread his hands. You can leave. What do I have to do with you? I never said that I would be responsible for you. If it weren't for me, you would still be locked up in the city lord's mansion. You already have the chance to be reborn. I understand that you want to become stronger, but your resentment towards me is inexplicable. Truly, He Qing's imagination was a bit too much, wasn't it? She was not the original incarnation of the law of earth. He did not like her, did not know her, and had no responsibility towards her. If possible, she would rather have her former family members become mission enforcers. However, there were billions of planes. Ning Shu did not know which plane he had been born in. He was unable to determine the location, and he did not even know how that plane had developed. Were her family members still alive? So, what did He Qing have to do with him? He Qing reacted and hurriedly apologized. I'm sorry. I was just too disappointed. No matter what He Qing said, it had already happened. It could not be undone. Ning Shu raised his chin towards the black hole. You can leave now. He brought her along because she provided him with information. He gave her a chance, but her soul did not meet the requirements, so he was to blame. What kind of logic was this? He Qing almost knelt down in front of Ning Shu. She begged, please give me another chance. I beg you. She was about to cross the threshold, but she could not. She was too unwilling. If she had not seen such beauty, it would have been fine. But now that she had seen it, she could no longer remain calm. Ning Shu sat on the sofa and shook his head. Sometimes, if you did too much, people would think that it was natural. If you did not agree, you would be wicked beyond redemption. Ning Shu felt that he had done too much. He had saved people and placed them in the world of reincarnation. In the end, it was her own problem. How could he be blamed? Ning Shu did not plan to deal with He Qing. If He Qing was worth his time, the strength of her soul was a small matter. BK. Chapter 30-40. Maybe he could get some pure soul power to make her soul qualified. But He Qing was not worth it. Even if it was an investment, it had to be a reliable investment. Ning Shu was not happy, but He Qing also felt wronged in her heart. Fortunately, she worked hard to come up with a plan. At the end, let me tell you, it's not like this. No, it's not qualified. If it were anyone else, they would be angry. He Qing was the one who let her anger erupt. Ning Shu felt a little puzzled. He Qing looked like a strong woman, and she was trapped in the Earth City's Lord Mansion for a while. Didn't she have this kind of tolerance? If she asked how to deal with the soul purity, maybe the atmosphere would not be so bad. Every time she asked questions, she paid real money. Who had so much time and energy to deal with irrelevant people? Ning Shu waved his hand. Please leave. You can still go back to the world of samsara. If you continue to make trouble, I won't even let you have a chance to be reborn. What was the purpose of pursuing power? Talk reason with Sabi. He Qing looked decadent. She wanted to beg Ning Shu, but she saw his indifferent face. No matter how she begged, nothing would change. He Qing's expression could not help but be a little resentful. You said that my soul was not strong enough. Now that my soul is strong, you still don't want me. Ning Shu's expression became more and more indifferent. He looked at He Qing indifferently. If she wanted to stay here, he would throw her into the Soul Pearl. The Soul Pearl was a place more oppressive than the world of samsara. I've been bleeding and sweating until now, and now I'm being threatened by you. Is this reasonable? He Qing seemed to be poured a bucket of cold water over her head. As soon as she met Ning Shu's eyes, she shuddered and went into the black hole. She did not dare to speak again. The black hole disappeared. Ning Shu rolled his eyes. His straight back bent down, and he nestled in the sofa without any image. He directly threw this matter to the back of his mind and clicked on the chat system. Ning Shu clicked on His Excellency and said, "Dear, there's something I want to ask you." His Excellency did not answer. Ning Shu asked again, "Dear, how is the child recently?" In the past, the itch of an abyssal prefect was the flower. Now, the itch of an abyssal prefect was the child. Whenever a child was mentioned, he would reply no matter what. Abyssal prefect, what is it? Can you stop being so annoying? Do you know that you're annoying? Ning Shu ignored it and asked, there are some people in the world of reincarnation who don't have consciousness. How do you deal with the scattered soul force? How do you collect it? Why not collect them? The abyssal prefect asked, there are so many skeletons that want to eat the golden nuggets. If we sell the power of the souls to the organization, we can earn a sum of money. Ning Shu grinned widely. Now, he had found a way to collect souls. I thought that the abyssal prefect skeletons were waiting for the organization to allocate military funds, but it turns out that they were here to buy and sell soul energy. Skeletons did not require soul power, but they required merit points. However, an organized army required soul power. An exchange would benefit both parties. There were millions upon millions of reincarnation worlds. Collecting a bit of soul energy from each world was also a huge amount of soul energy. No wonder even an abyssal prefect could use his soul energy to water the flowers. He must have a lot of soul energy. Ning Shu changed the topic again. Can I see how the child is now? Has he grown up? Abyssal prefect, didn't you see him before? He's still the same. What do you want to say? Ning Shu, I want to ask, how do you guys collect the scattered soul force? Abyssal Prefect, what do you think this place is? You want to get whatever you want. Do you have any shame? Do you have any shame? Of course. What is it that makes you so happy and persistent? Is it love? Is it responsibility? Is it poverty? If she could collect the scattered soul force in the world of reincarnation, other than doing missions, she could also store other soul force. Maybe when she was really poor, she could even secretly go to the black market to sell soul force. Ning Shu absorbed the spirit stone while sending a message to the Abyssal Prefect. I won't ask any more. Can I see the child? I'm very worried about him. Abyssal Prefect, you are stepping on my bottom line. Is there any meaning to it? Ning Shu smiled. Then return the child to me. Abyssal Prefect, I will send some skeletons over later. They will fix it. Ning Shu smiled without showing his teeth. Okay, I got it. Tell the child that I love him. Abyssal Prefect, in the future, don't send messages for no reason. If there is really a problem in the world, he will sense it. After saying that, Abyssal Prefect blocked Ning Shu. He was blocked again and again. After a while, a few skeletons came over. The skeletons in the world of reincarnation had a division of labor. Some were responsible for making new skeletons, some were responsible for collecting soul force, and some were responsible for fighting. They were clearly separated and seemed to be in good order. However, Ning Shu's team was more chaotic now. The skeletons saw Ning Shu and handed her a shopping list. Buy according to the things on the list. You need to build a device to collect souls and set up an array to absorb them. Ning Shu took the list and looked at it carefully. She suddenly had a headache. There were many expensive things. She needed star stones. The main function was to form something to hold soul force, just like holding the law of nothingness, it was used to hold soul force. There was also an array, which was extremely complicated. Ning Shu looked at it and felt that her eyes were going to go blind. Such a big array, she might not be able to set it up even if she drained all her spiritual power. Where was she going to find so many star stones? Every time she picked up a few pieces from the trash, when would she be able to pick up enough? The skeletons looked at Ning Shu's expression and said, then you can delay the construction of the pool. After all, your world has just been formed not long ago. I guess there is not much soul force dissipated. The world of reincarnation with more soul force dissipated is darker. Ning Shu, what you said is so hurtful. Ning Shu's skeletons asked, if you succeed, how much soul force can you gather? This is hard to say. It depends on the density of souls in the world of reincarnation and the number of souls that have lost their intelligence. You can gather a lot of soul force. You can also exchange a lot of merit with soul force. Ning Shu took a deep breath as if she had a toothache. She was really conflicted. The skeletons had just been created not long ago and spent a lot of money. Now that she had to do this, she was really tight on money. Moreover, she needed star stones. Peerless martial arts needed star stones. The amount needed was not small. Star stones were not something that could be bought with money. The organization said that there was a stock, but they might not sell it to her. After all, the world of reincarnation needed these things and would provide them to the world of reincarnation immediately. Ning Shu wanted to say that she was also from the world of reincarnation. There was no need to discriminate like this. The skeletons waited for Ning Shu's reply. After a while, they asked, will you call us when you have decided? Now, many skeletons knew that there was a world of reincarnation next door. They came to this world to earn extra money. Chapter 30-41. Therefore, these skeletons had a good attitude towards Ning Shu. Ning Shu nodded. This wasn't a matter of words. Looking for materials made him want to cry. After the skeletons left, Ning Shu quickly contacted Fragrant Wind and said that he wanted to buy star stones, a large amount. Fragrant Wind, don't look for me for this kind of thing. I'm not in charge of logistics. Ning Shu, then who should I look for? After so long, she didn't even know the organization's departments. It wasn't that she was stupid, but the organization was too complicated. Moreover, the organization wouldn't specifically tell the mission enforcers about the organization's structure, departments, and higher-ups. She couldn't get in touch with them, and there was no information. Fragrant Wind said, "Find the main system, find the Taishu." Ning Shu clicked on the Taishu and said, "I want to collect the soul power of the world of reincarnation. When the construction is completed, I can also provide soul power for the organization." Whether she exchanged the soul power with the organization for merit or sent it for purification, the organization would take it away. Moreover, if she bought the star stones, she would definitely take out real money. They wouldn't give it to her for free. Ning Shu didn't bother with pleasantries and directly explained the matter. At least there was a child as a buffer when talking to the Lord. Now the Taishu was in a bad mood. "Taishu, find the main system." Ning Shu sighed. "You guys are quite good at pushing people. Poor little people." Ning Shu, "Oh, who is the main system?" Usually, the main system would send messages and was responsible for the network and monitoring of the entire organization. The security department also took care of the logistics department. Taishu, Sang Liang. Ning Shu. Silver-haired man. Ning Shu thought about it carefully. Had she ever told the silver-haired man anything that was against the law? Even the main system came out to earn extra money. The organization was really poor. So, the main system was a person. Ning Shu contacted the main system with complicated feelings. "I have something to discuss with you." It was better to be tactful. "How's the child?" He still used the child as an opening line. Ning Shu suddenly felt like he was a scum. There were children he had abandoned everywhere. The main system only replied with 2 words, "It's all right." It was very awkward. Ning Shu explained the matter of buying star stones, how many star stones he wanted to buy, and the benefits of the construction. Blah, 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 for the organization, not only would they be able to earn money from trading star stones, but they would also be able to obtain soul power in the future. In short, the only way to purify soul energy was to find an organization. Ning Shu thought back to the time when she did business with the main system. Back then, it was always the silver-haired man who bargained with her with a cold face. "Main system, how many star stones do you want?" "More. I want to build a bigger pool." "Main system, how much?" 2,000 yuan. Since he was going to do it, he had to do it well so that he wouldn't have to do it again in the future. Moreover, in the future, every world of samsara would have to build such a pool to collect soul power. Actually, from the looks of it, there wasn't a lot of star stones in stock. After all, they had to first satisfy the needs of the planes and link the planes together. The remaining star stones had to be supplied to the worlds of samsara. There were so many worlds of samsara, and every world of samsara needed to build a pool, therefore, this thing actually had many uses. Previously, he thought that star stones had no other use other than to hold things. Main system, 2,000 yuan is not enough. 1,000. Ning Shu contacted the skeleton again and asked if 1,000 star stones could be used to construct the pool. The skeleton replied that it could, but it had to depend on the size of the star stones. If each star stone was only the size of a fist, it definitely wouldn't be enough. Ning Shu hurriedly asked the main system about the size of the star stones. The answer he got was that there were big and small ones. The big ones were as tall as a person, and the small ones were the size of a fingernail. Ning Shu, damn, could it be made to be the same size? It wasn't exactly the same, but it couldn't be so different either. Anyway, it was random. There were big ones and small ones. It depended on one's luck. If one was lucky, there would be a lot of big ones, and it might even be worth the money. If one was unlucky, then there was no other way. Ning Shu, what was the point of talking about luck when doing business? Ning Shu didn't have much confidence in his own luck, but this kind of thing was only available to the organization. A monopoly would lead to huge profits. Ning Shu gritted his teeth and said, I want to buy it. How much is it? Main system, there are two options. First, you buy 1,000 star stones directly. One stone is 25,000 merit points, and 1,000 is 25 million merit points. Second option, the organization will take 20% of the soul power collected. 1 star stone is 1,000 merit points, and you will pay 10 million merit points. Ning Shu, counting with his fingers, he saved 15 million merit points, but a part of his soul power would be taken away in the future. His account now had less than 20 million merit points. After repaying his debt, he was left with more than 17 million merit points. However, he had invested a lot of merit points in cultivating the skeleton. Now, his account should only have about 10 million merit points, which was enough to support the second option. Let the main system take away a part of his soul power. In fact, the main system had invested in building this pool. Then, it was normal to take away his soul power. However, Ning Shu didn't want to accept the second option. What should he do? Where could he get money? He couldn't possibly borrow money. He couldn't find anyone to borrow money from. Shubai had already borrowed money once. The Chongsam man had only spent 30 million to buy a bead. He probably didn't have any money now. He suddenly realized that the people around him were very poor. So, where did the money go? Everyone was poor. Where was the money? Ning Shu said guiltily, I have to think about it. The main system didn't say like the salesman that there would be no more such things next time. If you wanted to buy it, hurry up and buy it. Ning Shu seized the time to get the money. He hesitated. Should he buy it or not? If he didn't buy the pool, he could still use the money to cultivate the skeleton. He would buy the pool when he had money in the future. Ning Shu, he didn't even know when he had money. He was short of money now, and he would be short of money in the future. It was better to buy it. Ning Shu took out the fire bead. While the fire bead was still popular, he wanted to see if he could sell it for a good price. It was unlikely that he could sell it for 30 million merit points. Ning Shu took out a fire bead and took it to the auction house to look for Si Tian. Ning Shu sat in the private room and asked Si Tian, how's the market for fire beads now? It's saturated. When an item became valuable, such items would appear in a swarm. Si Tian said, it's okay. A few people asked me if you want to sell it. If you want to sell it, now is the best time. There are billions of planes and so many worlds of nothingness. If you deliberately search for it, you will eventually find it. Once there are too many of these things, they won't be valuable, Si Tian said. This was the last time Ning Shu sold this item. He took out one and said, please help me sell it. Okay. Si Tian put away the bottle/BK. Chapter 3042. Ning Shu said to Si Tian, can you hurry up? I have something urgent. Si Tian nodded and left the room. Ning Shu drank his tea and waited. He had more than 10 million merit points and could accept the second option. But Ning Shu didn't want anyone to interfere with the world of reincarnation. Maybe there would be more and more soul power in the future and the main system would have control over a portion of the soul power in the pool. He felt really unhappy, so he would rather spend more money now than feel bad in the future. If he didn't have enough money, he would have to wait for a while. When he had enough money, he would have to choose the first option. My name on the property deed is better than two people's names. If there was only one name on it, there wouldn't be any conflicts in the future. Because of interests, it would be really ugly. Now that he had cleaned it up, there wouldn't be any trouble in the future. Most importantly, Ning Shu knew himself well. Every time he had to give away a portion, he would feel heartache. In order to prevent himself from feeling heartache, he had to choose the first option. Ning Shu ate his desserts and drank his tea. After waiting for a long time, Si Tian finally arrived. Si Tian walked into the room. Ning Shu put down his teacup and looked at Si Tian. Si Tian said, "I've informed a few people to bid. But it wasn't as much as the auction. It was only 18 million. Si Tian said. Ning Shu nodded, "Okay." He didn't expect that kind of price. That kind of price couldn't be sold anymore. Si Tian gave 16 million merit points to Ning Shu and took a portion of the service fee. Ning Shu felt that Si Tian really knew how to make money. Every time he did a business, he would get a commission. If it was something from his own auction house, the price and profits would all go to the auction house. He couldn't imagine how rich Si Tian was. Ning Shu wanted to kill and burn his belt. It was all because he was poor. Ning Shu blinked and asked Si Tian, "Do you need people to invest in your auction house?" Si Tian said, "The auction house doesn't lack funds. Not at the moment. Only by financing could one have a chance to invest and get dividends." The business of Si Tian's auction house was pretty good, and he definitely wouldn't allow others to split the profits when the business was booming. Ning Shu was just asking. He didn't expect to get a share of the profits. He took the money and returned to the system space. Then, he told the main system that he had chosen the first option. He would pay 25 million for 1,000 star stones. The main system did not advise Ning Shu to choose the second option. It received the money and sent the item over. There were more than 1,000 star stones of different sizes. When they appeared, they filled up the system space. It almost drowned Ning Shu. He felt that his system space was a little small and wanted to expand it. Ning Shu took these things to the world of samsara and informed the skeletons to come and build them. The skeleton said to Ning Shu, "You should familiarize yourself with the array formation as soon as possible. Once the collection pool is ready, you need to set up the array formation. This array formation is equivalent to a device that can absorb the soul power of the world and then collect it in the pool." Ning Shu nodded and sent the skeleton to the world of samsara. Then, he absorbed the spirit stone and tried to strengthen his spiritual power. Such a complicated array formation required a huge amount of spiritual power. He didn't want to run out of spiritual power when he was about to finish setting up the array formation. After absorbing the spiritual power, he used the fire pearl to temper his spiritual power. He felt that the spirit ball was swollen and painful. He felt a little bloated. When he used the fire pearl to temper it, it wasn't so powerful anymore. Ning Shu felt that his spiritual power had entered a bottleneck. Even if he absorbed a lot of spiritual power, it was useless. This was probably related to the problem of the realm. Ning Shu tempered the spirit ball until it was bright silver and stopped absorbing the spirit stone. When he came to the world of samsara, a few skeletons were using the star stones to build the pool. He didn't know how they handled the star stones, but they could actually make the surface of the star stones very smooth. Leaving behind some scraps of the star stones, Ning Shu threw all these scraps into the law of nothingness. The skeleton's hands and feet were nimble. They had already finished setting up the pool. Ning Shu was still making seals to familiarize himself with the array formation. This array formation was too complicated. It was impossible to familiarize himself with it in a short time. A skeleton said, "Do you want me to help you set up the array formation?" Ning Shu looked at him with some surprise. "You actually know how to set up an array formation?" "This is what we do." "Of course I know how to." Ning Shu thought of his own skeletons. Some of them were still in a daze. Looking at these skeletons, it was like looking at other people's children. How could they be so versatile? They were other people's children. Ning Shu was like an old mother. When he saw his child, he couldn't help but feel a little anxious. He was anxious that his child could be so incompetent. Ning Shu shook his head and said, "No need, I'll do it myself." This was the time to familiarize herself with the array formation. She couldn't rely on others to set it up for her in the future. Ning Shu made seals with both hands. His fingers moved faster and faster. However, Ning Shu was really nervous. He didn't know if he could successfully set up the array formation. Even a genius array master wouldn't be able to set up an array formation with just a glance. Ning Shu was very glad that he had learned how to set up arrays. He had a little foundation. Otherwise, he would definitely be at a loss. No matter how complicated the array formation was, it was still an evolution of the basic array formation. As long as one was familiar with the basic array formation and was familiar with the basic structure of the array formation, it was evolving. His mental strength was being sucked away at an extremely fast speed. Not only was his mental strength being sucked away, his soul power was also being sucked away. Soon, his mental strength was sucked dry. The array formation was at its final juncture. Ning Shu gritted his teeth and persisted in outputting his mental strength. The mental strength ball became smaller and smaller. In the end, it became only the size of a peanut. He was about to succeed. Ning Shu released his mental strength, which was the size of a peanut. However, under such a high-intensity output, his mental strength scattered and directly collapsed into specks of stars and disappeared. The mental strength ball disappeared. Ning Shu was shocked. The rhythm of the array formation was also broken. The array formation collapsed. Her mental strength ball was gone. Fuck, 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 fuck. The mental strength ball was gone. Without the mental strength ball, the soul would lose its consciousness. If the mental strength ball was stimulated too much, it would become a fool. But now, the mental strength ball was gone. Was she going to lose her consciousness next? Ning Shu asked, "What's wrong?" Ning Shu was a little panicked. Now that she didn't have the mental strength ball, she couldn't set up the array formation. The most important thing was her consciousness. Would she become a wandering soul without consciousness? Ning Shu said to the skeletons, "Help me set it up." A few skeletons stood in place and began to set up the array formation. Soon, an array formation enveloped the sky above the pool. A skeleton said, "This array formation collects soul power and condenses it into soul liquid. Drop by drop, it drips into the pool. There shouldn't be many souls that have lost their consciousness in your world. I don't think we can collect many now." Chapter 30-43. Soul fluid is very attractive to the souls in this world, so send someone to guard this pool or set up an array formation to surround it. Ning Shu nodded. "I got it. Thank you." Ning Shu gave each of them 10 merit grains and sent the skeleton away. Ning Shu ran back to the system space and took out the spirit stone to absorb it. After absorbing the spirit stone, the spirit ball might be formed again. The output of spiritual energy was too strong and directly destroyed the spirit ball. The spirit ball was useless. Ning Shu absorbed the spirit stones one by one. The fine sand around her feet had all turned into sand after absorbing the spirit stones. Ning Shu felt that she had absorbed a lot, but the spirit ball still hadn't formed. This was a little scary. Ning Shu didn't know what to do. The spiritual energy absorbed was not pure. Now that she didn't even have a spirit ball, how could she extract it? She had absorbed a lot of dirty things. Ning Shu gave up on absorbing them. If she absorbed them, it would be difficult to spit them out. Fuck, don't tell me I've become an idiot. Ning Shu had never thought that she would become a wandering soul one day. She had never thought about it. However, she didn't feel anything. It didn't hurt or itch, but there was no spirit ball in her sea of consciousness. This was very scary. When she encountered something she didn't understand, of course, she had to consult. Even if she was going to become a wandering soul, she had to hold an umbrella and be a beautiful and clean wandering soul. Ning Shu held an umbrella in one hand and held her long skirt in the other. She hurried to the consultation room. After a while, the silver-haired man came out of the room. Ning Shu saw 3 shining words above his head, main system. When the silver-haired man saw Ning Shu, his expression was cold and normal. He asked, "What do you want to ask this time?" Ning Shu sat across from him and said, "My spirit ball is gone. I'm afraid I'm going to lose my mind." The silver-haired man's expression was indifferent. He placed his hand on the craft book and asked, "Do you feel like you're going to lose your mind now?" Ning Shu nodded. "I feel like my head is getting numb." The silver-haired man raised his eyebrows. "He does look like he has lost his mind. How did he do that?" Ning Shu told the silver-haired man everything that had happened. He looked at the silver-haired man and asked, "Will I become a wandering soul?" The silver-haired man said, "The state of existence of the mind is not only solid. It can also be liquid or astral. Your current mental power is just a different form of existence. When a form of existence cannot satisfy the needs of the mind power will change its state. Overusing the mind power gives the mind power a chance to change. A spirit that is not destroyed by violence will not disappear. It will still exist in the sea of consciousness." Ning Shu said, "Oh." He let out a long sigh. At least she wouldn't become a wandering soul. She could understand it as her spiritual power breaking through the neck of the human body. In the future, it wouldn't be solid and might become a lake. But how was she going to refine her mental strength? If it turned into a pond and she still used the fire pearl like before, she was afraid that it would be useless. Ning Shu felt both happy and worried. She was worried that she might not be able to use the impurities in her mental strength anymore because she didn't know how to purify it. The silver-haired man ignored Ning Shu's scrunched-up face and sighed. He asked, "Do you have any other questions?" Ning Shu thought for a moment and asked, "How should I strengthen my mental strength? In the past, I could stimulate the mental ball and make it stronger. But how should I cultivate it when it becomes a different state?" The silver-haired man said, "Mental strength will grow slowly. If you cultivate it, you have to enter the sea of consciousness and touch it. Like the mental ball, it needs external stimulation." Ning Shu didn't understand. He asked, "For example?" The silver-haired man said, "For example, your mental strength becomes a vast ocean and you jump in." Ning Shu said, "What's the use of jumping in?" The silver-haired man said, "It will hurt, and your mental strength will reject it. It will have a stimulating effect." Ning Shu thought that was really simple and crude. Last time, when she casually mentioned going to the void world, the main system used this to threaten her to pick up garbage. After all this time, she told the main system herself. The silver-haired man was the one who made her pick up garbage, and then he sat across from her and made her money. Ning Shu wanted to ask the silver-haired man if it was exciting. The silver-haired man asked, "Is there anything else?" Ning Shu shook his head. No, there's also how to purify my mental strength." The silver-haired man said, "Keep stimulating and tempering it." Ning Shu nodded and stared at the silver-haired man. The silver-haired man asked, "What else? What about the child?" He didn't know how the child's mental strength was now. If the organization cultivated a heart, it would definitely be useful in the future. The silver-haired man simply said, "Not bad." What did that mean? Ning Shu asked, "Is it very wild?" A person who had just formed would definitely not be happy to be disciplined. It's quite wild. Although the silver-haired man said that his heart was wild, his expression was very calm, without any distress at all. The wild heart probably wasn't a problem for the silver-haired man. Ning Shu felt that his heart must be going crazy right now. The silver-haired man asked, "Is there anything else you want to ask?" This time, there was really no more. Ning Shu asked, "How much merit points?" 200,000, Ning Shu, fuck. 200,000 for just a few sentences. Did he include asking about the heart as a question? Ning Shu asked, "Don't tell me you used the organization's information and knowledge to exchange for money?" As the main system, it supported the operation of the entire organization and had all kinds of knowledge and experience. The silver-haired man said, "Knowledge is wealth." Alright, there was indeed no reason for the organization to provide mission takers with complete knowledge. Even if it was a sect, not everyone knew the secrets of the sect. Ning Shu gave the silver-haired man 200,000 merit points. It felt like everyone was earning money very easily. CT on, the silver-haired man, they were earning hundreds of thousands every minute. There were consultation rooms everywhere. Ning Shu asked curiously, "Are there many people who want to consult you?" When he collected taxes, the silver-haired man didn't collect much. Moreover, the silver-haired man would set the price according to the question. He remembered that when he was still a newbie, he spent points. As the question changed, it became merit points and faith points. Ning Shu basically hadn't used his points yet. What were they for? All this time, he had been using faith points and merit points. Ning Shu asked, "What's the use of points?" Every mission would reward some points. But what was the use of points? Maybe some small things cost points, but Ning Shu was buying things with merit points and faith points. The silver-haired man said, "Points can be used to buy items with points. Uncle and a group of props will release items with points every once in a while. As long as you have enough points, you can buy them." Chapter 3044. Including some expensive and rare props. Regardless of the mission taker's level, you can buy them. It's a benefit from the organization. There are very rare props. This was a shopping voucher. Ning Shu asked, "When will such a product be released?" "Depends on Uncle's mood." Ning Shu was speechless. So capricious. Anyway, she hadn't seen a point-based product for so long. It had probably been hundreds of years. Did the organization have some misunderstanding about time? How could they not release a product for hundreds of years? When the point-based products were released, she had to snatch some. Anyway, points were useless. The silver-haired man said, 1,000 merit points. You need merit points for this kind of question? Ning Shu looked at the silver-haired man in shock. You asked a question and I answered it. You have to pay a consultation fee. Ning Shu said, if I ask you, "Are you doing well?" and you come back, do I have to pay a fee? The silver-haired man said, yes, I answered you again. 1,001 merit points. Ning Shu was speechless. Damn. She couldn't afford to offend him. She couldn't argue with him. Ning Shu took out 1,001 merit points. She asked for some merit points after greeting him. Ning Shu kept her mouth shut. She needed money to talk here. She couldn't ask anything that wasn't nutritious. Knowing that she wouldn't become an idiot, Ning Shu walked out of the consultation room. She tiptoed, walked in circles, and hummed a tune. Although she was frightened, the result was good. Her mental strength would become stronger in the future. She might be able to build a space tunnel to pick up fragments by herself. She had to earn some money by relying on someone else's tunnel. If she helped others pick up fragments, wouldn't she have to give some money to the person who built the tunnel for her? This seemed like making use of others to earn money. If it was just picking up fragments by herself, it would be fine. Now that she had to earn money, the nature was a little different. Now that she could build a tunnel, she didn't have any psychological burden. Ning Shu was in a good mood. As he was spinning, he bumped into someone. However, this person reached out from behind and pulled Ning Shu into his embrace. A pair of hands wrapped around Ning Shu's shoulders from behind. Ning Shu's nose was filled with a fragrance. When he turned to look at Zhang Jiasen, goosebumps rose all over his body. He immediately pushed Zhang Jiasen's hand aside and jumped away. "Why are you here?" Ning Shu couldn't get rid of the chill in his body. "If you can go to Shaman City to comprehend the law of Shaman, then I can also comprehend the law of wood and the law of fire. You can't stop me from comprehending the law of wood just because you're the city lord of the law of wood, right? There's no such logic." Zhang Jiasen put his hand to his nose and sniffed. "You smell good." Ning Shu almost vomited. Zhang Jiasen had become so greasy, so wretched, so greasy. Right now, he was still having goosebumps all over his body, and they wouldn't go away. He felt as if a snake was coiling around his body. Ning Shu sneered. "You're too disgusting. You were the one who bumped into my arms. There's nothing wrong with me hugging you," Zhang Jiasen said directly. "Even if there's any past between us, it's all in the past. Why are you holding a grudge?" Ning Shu said, "Yes, I'm holding a grudge. Even if I'm holding a grudge, I should be the one holding a grudge against you. You're the one holding a grudge against me. You're unreasonable." Zhang Jiasen shook his head and said, "Even if there's any discord between us, there's no need to be so tit for tat when we meet." Ning Shu didn't want to talk to Zhang Jiasen. Arguing with him was a waste of time. "Reason? Sorry, I'm not going to reason with you. Who do you think you are?" She really wanted to kill this guy impulsively, but she had to be obedient. What if she lost the city lord medal? Now that the grand-uncle was annoyed because of Xingqing's matter, if she made trouble, she might be killed. Unless her value was so great that the grand-uncle would consider her value when he killed her again. Damn it. Ning Shu felt like caterpillars were crawling all over her body. It was disgusting. If she stepped on a caterpillar, her shoes would be dirted by the splashing green water. It was even more disgusting. Zhang Jiasen was a little helpless. "When you see me, you must exude killing intent. You can kill the incarnation of the law of earth. You can kill me. I'll stand still. You can do it. If you don't do it, can we reconcile? We used to be husband and wife." Ning Shu was speechless. According to Zhang Jiasen's calculations, she had many husbands in many planes. Zhang Jiasen was one of the scumbag husbands. He. Ning Shu realized that Zhang Jiasen was really calculating people's hearts all the time. How could he be so sure that she wouldn't do it? He thought that she would be afraid because she had just made trouble once and now wanted to keep a low profile. If she didn't do it, would Zhang Jiasen imagine that she had feelings for him, so she couldn't bear to do it? "Do it. If you do it, we'll write off what happened before," Zhang Jiasen said. "If you don't do it, is it because you have scruples or because of me?" Ning Shu almost laughed out of anger. She was going to do it. They were good friends. If she didn't do it, it was because she couldn't bear to. Do it or don't do it. You got all the benefits. This was a multiple-choice question. Either I'll be your boyfriend or you'll be my girlfriend. Fuck you. Your awkward flirting was really disgusting. He was sure that she wouldn't do it. Fighting now didn't need to be earth-shattering. Ning Shu tried to release her spiritual power. It seemed that she could still use it. This spiritual power was very strong. It directly attacked Zhang Jiasen's consciousness. The spiritual ball was attacked and rebounded violently. Crack. Zhang Jiasen's spiritual ball cracked. He groaned and knelt on the ground with his hands on the ground. His expression was painful and hideous. Ning Shu left Wood City to teach Zhang Jiasen a lesson so that he would take a detour when he saw her in the future. She was afraid of the judges and didn't dare to kill a mission enforcer in a city of laws. Moreover, this mission enforcer didn't seem to have provoked her. Looking at it this way, the fault was all on her side. Ning Shu gritted her teeth. Zhang Jiasen was really good at scheming. Even if Zhang Jiasen died, there was still Zhang Jiasen's system. Maybe it would report this matter to the organization. However, the pain of the spiritual ball cracking was very uncomfortable. Zhang Jiasen could enjoy it. Moreover, the average person couldn't repair the spiritual ball. Back then, her spiritual ball was shattered by her heart. Then, her heart needed her spiritual ball like dough and repaired it. So who would Zhang Jiasen find to repair it? The spiritual ball was flawed. It was also very painful to cultivate. There were cracks there, and it hurt when touched. Using spiritual power would also hurt. What was she flirting about? Flirting was a very dangerous thing. Zhang Jiasen felt like his mind was being crushed by countless trains. His whole body trembled. The tearing pain made Zhang Jiasen unable to get up for a long time. He raised his head with difficulty. There was no trace of the woman in front of him. Zhang Jiasen's heart seemed to be frozen in ice water. It was bone-chilling. /BK Chapter 30-45. He paid the price for his impulsiveness this time. Zhang Jiasen returned to the system space. His system space had a cold style with gray and black decorations. He sat on the sofa and hugged his head. It hurt too much. Forget about enlightenment, even completing missions was a little difficult. A male voice sounded, "Host, why do you always like to find trouble with this woman? She's obviously stronger than you. You'll definitely be at a disadvantage in her hands." What a stupid thing to do. Zhang Jiasen said in a muffled voice, I don't know. His heart was very complicated. He wanted to kill her, but he also hoped that she would smile at him. Every time he saw her, she had a disgusted expression. Zhang Jiasen wondered when she would smile at him while holding an umbrella. Don't mess with her for now. Her equipment, even an umbrella, is worth tens of thousands of merit points. You've just become the embodiment of the sorcerer's law, so you haven't collected any taxes yet. Zhang Jiasen's system didn't know what was going on between the two of them. It only saw Zhang Jiasen approaching her again and again. Don't think of female mission enforcers as normal mission enforcers. They've been through too much. Normal love can't shake their hearts, especially a woman with 3 sigils of the law. You've underestimated your opponent. He even stood there and let her kill him. Zhang Jiasen had a splitting headache. His head was about to explode. He said to the system, my head hurts. The system checked. There's a crack in your spiritual sphere. Did he really think that she wouldn't do anything to him? Spiritual sphere. Zhang Jiasen frowned. Will it affect my spiritual energy? The system said, what do you think? The spiritual sphere is the foundation of spiritual energy. Now that there's a problem with it, do you think your spiritual energy will be fine? She only did that once and you can only suffer this hidden disadvantage. It's useless even if you find the judge. The system was bald. He didn't understand the grudge between the two of them. He gritted his teeth and wanted to go over again. Why bother? In an organization with strength, if you insist on using love, when that woman is really strong, I guarantee that you won't use love to conquer her. This is the behavior of the weak. When you can crush her, do you still need to waste time and effort to flirt with her? How can you be so conflicted? You have to be careful. We are now one body. If you do anything dangerous, please think of me. I don't want to be unlucky with you. Zhang Jiasen furrowed his brows and endured the pain. He clenched his fists and flipped the things in front of him in frustration. The pain in his head made him irritable. After messing with Zhang Jiasen for a bit, Ning Shu returned to the system and prepared to do the quest. Even if Zhang Jiasen went to complain, she wouldn't do the mission anymore. Senior uncle wouldn't be so idle as to go to the plane to kill her. Even if he wanted to kill her, he would have to wait until the plane mission was over. Moreover, no one died, so he could just dismiss them with a joke. Ning Shu said to the backup system, "I want to do a mission." Let's meet the mission enforcer." The backup system retorted, "What do you mean by meeting the mission enforcer? The mission enforcer is watching you do the mission the entire time, but what mission enforcer did you meet?" Ning Shu. "Can't we meet the mission enforcers?" Ning Shu was very confused. In the past, she could meet the mission enforcers. Because of the problem in the world of reincarnation, she had met them a few times and couldn't see them again. The backup system, the organization doesn't have this rule. There is no rule to meet the mission enforcer in advance. Ning Shu scratched her head. What was going on? She had seen it before in this system space. Ning Shu had all kinds of thoughts in her mind. Ning Shu asked, "How does your system choose the mission?" "Choose?" The backup system said directly, "There is no such thing as choosing the mission. The main system randomly allocates the mission according to the mission enforcer's level. There are difficult and easy missions, and those of equal difficulty are not chosen by the system." Ning Shu. But the missions she did in the past were all chosen by 2333. No, Jingqing. She didn't like the mission of chasing love for others. The missions she did had nothing to do with this. Since it wasn't chosen, why could she refuse? This kind of allocation is to prevent everyone from choosing the easy missions. Some of the more difficult and difficult missions are not done. If it drags on, it may cause the plane to collapse. And the missions have a priority. The more serious missions are placed in front. When the mission enforcers accept the mission, they will receive the more urgent missions. The severity of the mission changes all the time. Some clients may have to wait for a long time without any mission enforcers to counterattack for them. It can also prevent uneven distribution and mismatch of difficulty. I don't quite understand what you mean by choosing. It's nothing. Ning Shu intuitively stopped this topic. What was up with her previous system? Ning Shu asked, "Then is my current mission a mission related to love?" Career and love are the two eternal themes of human beings. Many missions are related to love, the backup system replied. Especially love. It is accompanied by suspicion, jealousy, possessiveness, and loss. The resentment that results is very strong. That's right. Many of the missions she did in the past were related to love. The wife who was cheated on, of course, there were more tragic things that had nothing to do with love. Ning Shu was a little confused about what happened in the past. Jingqing said that he would choose the missions himself. She even did a lot of system missions for this. But the missions were what she was good at. But the organization's mission allocation all had requirements. Could it be that the main system opened a back door for Jingqing? That was not possible. Ning Shu felt that her prophecy mission was a little dangerous. It might really come true. In the past, she felt that her missions were easy. In the future, her missions might be even harder. The backup system asked, "Do you want to do a mission now?" Ning Shu rubbed her head. Jingqing ran away, leaving her with a head full of question marks. She had no idea how she used to do missions. It was originally a uniform allocation, but Jingqing seemed to have specially chosen it. She chose a lot of system missions and absorbed the wild system. Let me think. Do you know the content of the next mission? Ning Shu's backup system asked. I didn't receive any content from the main system. Ning Shu, the main system is really busy. The main system is just a general concept. There are other systems under the main system. The content they are in charge of is different. Oh, Ning Shu said weakly. She felt that she was really stupid. It seemed that she had gotten some benefits. Jing Qing chose the missions on his own. But there were also missions that were more difficult. So, there was no option to meet the client. Where did Jing Qing pull the client into the system space to meet her? The backup system. You have a lot of missions. Can I ask you, don't you do missions? Ning Shu, what, /BK. Chapter 3046. Ning Shu felt that she had done a lot of missions. Why did the backup system say that she hadn't done any missions? Even if there was a backlog of missions, that was because she had been busy with other things recently. There wasn't a backlog of missions. From the backup system's tone, she had a lot of missions. She had been busy for so long, but in the end, to the organization, she wasn't a qualified mission enforcer. The backup system said, if the missions are backlogged for too long, the damage to the plane will be greater, and the difficulty will increase. Ning Shu rubbed her forehead and asked unwillingly, mission enforcers really can't see the mission enforcers? Can't they talk face to face? The backup system, is there really no such thing? Ning Shu, then what she saw before was a ghost. It was indeed a ghost. What was Jing Qing doing? It looked like he was making things convenient for her, but in reality, it wasn't. She felt that she had done so many missions, but the backlog was still the same. What was going on? She didn't ask Jing Qing personally, so she didn't know what he was thinking. And every time she did a mission, her attribute panel was correct. Then all the missions she did were connected to the main system and recorded in the main system. But why was there still so much backlog? The backup system, you should refresh your attribute panel. It should be refreshed after a while. The main system will give you a reply. What does refresh mean? Ning Shu felt that something was wrong. Her heart was beating wildly. It's the data recorded by the main system. It also has the number of missions you did and the specific content. It's convenient for you to correct the difference between the main system and yourself, the backup system replied. It answered whatever Ning Shu asked. On the other hand, Ning Shu, a super mission enforcer, seemed rather ignorant. Ning Shu swallowed and said, then I'll update the data too. The backup system, then I'll ask the main system for information and check. Ning Shu shook her legs and bit her fingernails. She estimated that she really hadn't completed many missions. Ning Shu suspected that some of the missions were private work done by Jing Qing, and such private work wouldn't be connected to the main system's data. Ning Shu chuckled. He didn't expect that a witty retard like her would have this kind of ability. If she had nothing to do, she might have gone to do some private work. The backup system said, the bill has been updated. You should also update your attribute panel. The stats panel was a private bookkeeping tool. Sometimes, it would be different from the official account. Usually, the official account would take precedence. However, even if there was a slight difference, the difference wasn't that big. Ning Shu opened the bill. The record was quite detailed, including what mission he had completed, the time he had completed it, and the final result. In the end, she had completed 68 missions. More than 60 missions. Ning Shu flipped through these records and had a feeling of understanding. Sure enough, the system's mission was not recorded here. In other words, her system's mission to get the wild system's mission was actually not recorded here. He was a little speechless. Jing Qing really wasn't a pushover. Wild systems would devour the host's soul. At that time, when he wanted to share a bit of soul power with Jing Qing, it seemed to have caused a bit of trouble. For a bit of benefit, it seemed that at that time, she tore it apart a bit. In the end, she didn't get anything from Jing Qing. Perhaps when she was doing the organization's mission, the soul power reward might have been leftovers from Jing Qing. In any case, Jing Qing had given her a bit. If he really didn't give her a bit, she would have jumped up at that time. The bill wasn't transparent at all. Moreover, she had no way of knowing that these things were in it. In the end, she had worked for nothing. Jing Qin wasn't willing to share with her at all. The soul power reward after the mission was probably given by Jing Qin casually. It was something that Jing Qin used to stabilize her and coax her. Jing Qin wasn't a witty retard. She was the witty retard. Ning Shu checked the mission list and opened it again. Only now did he realize that her stats panel was really unrecognizable. He couldn't see it. The attribute points weren't correct. The points weren't correct. However, the honorary title was correct. After all, it had been a long time since the honorary title was updated. If it was a private job, then the attribute points were all fake. Except for the soul power, everything else was fake. She held on to the fake attribute points and added and subtracted intelligence and force like a Satan. Jing Qin didn't think that she would find out at all. Perhaps by the time she found out, he would have already left. See, she really only found out after he left. Therefore, he was very unscrupulous. The reason why he didn't kill her was probably because she was a little useful. Instead of killing mission enforcers and constantly being replaced by Tai Shu, it was better to use mission enforcers to escape. Oh, Jing Qin was simply awesome. She happened to be in a situation where Jing Qin calmed down and didn't directly get killed. The next time she saw Jing Qin, she would definitely stab him to death. She couldn't bear it. In her stats panel, the attribute points were all cut in half. Moreover, when she was doing private jobs, the attribute points were very high. 2333 was directly given blindly. It was often more than 10 attribute points. In fact, the attribute points reward wasn't much. Her own record was like this. The data looked pretty good. Name, Ning Shu. Age, 27 level, Super Mission Enforcer Points card, 522, 10 million points for 1 point card. Soul value, 47 health value, 43 wisdom value, 49 luck value, 49 charm value, 39 spiritual power, 53 force value, 47 aptitude, 46 plus 2 faith power, 20,000 merit, 15,000,000 soul strength, 3 plus 8 authorization ticket, 0 pure heart, none comprehended law, water law incarnation, wood law incarnation, space law, earth law incarnation, constructed world, reincarnation world tools, calm halo, calming pill, faith halo, amulet 4, upgraded amulet plus 2. Honorary title, War God Empress, selfless ancestor skills, 5th ring shooting technique, level close combat technique, minor achievement in peerless martial arts, level poison technique, low-level business management knowledge, beginner code programming, beginner lawyer skill, divine master ghost catching skill, beginner cooking skill, level embroidery skill, trash hypnosis halo, mother of the world, queen's blessing, sister model worker, Chin Shi's blessing, leader halo, grass blessing, best friend for life, Meow Meow Meow's blessing, life-saving hand, Zhu Susu's blessing, founding woman, Chen Ermiai's blessing, beauty-in-law, Chen Ning's blessing, bane of the blood clan, Jasmine's blessing, transcending race communication, Bai Sanyang's blessing, brave heart, Wang Ying's blessing, bloodthirsty tyrant, Ni Bingyan's blessing, heart of peace and joy, luck halo, faith halo, longevity. /BK Chapter 3047. Now it had become like this. Name, Ning Shu. Age, 27 rank, Super Mission Taker Contribution Card, 237, 10 million points for 1 contribution card. Soul, 31 health, 28 wisdom, 39 luck, 25 charm, 15 mental power, 40 martial power, 28 potential, 36 faith, 20,000 merit, 15,000,000 soul strength, 11 authorization ticket, 0 pure heart, none law comprehended, water law incarnation, wood law incarnation, space law, earth law incarnation, constructed world of reincarnation tools, calm halo, heart calming pill, amulet 4, upgraded amulet 2, faith bell honorary titles, goddess of war, selfless ancestor skills, 5th ring. Shooting technique, intermediate fighting technique, intermediate level poison technique, beginner level business management knowledge, beginner level code programming, beginner level lawyer skill, sage ghost catching skill, beginner level cooking skill, intermediate level embroidery skill, trash hypnosis aura, mother of the world, queen's blessing, sister model worker, Chen Shi's blessing, leader aura, grass blessing, best friend of a lifetime, Meow Meow Meow's blessing, life-saving hand, Zhu. Susu's blessing, founding woman, Chen Ermiai's blessing, beauty in law, Chen Ning's blessing, bane of the blood clan, Jasmine's blessing, transcending race communication, by Sanyang's blessing, brave heart, Wang Ying's blessing, bloodthirsty tyrant, Ni Bingyan's blessing, heart of peace and joy, luck halo, faith halo, longevity. What was more gratifying was that the merit and faith wouldn't be reduced. She just found out that points could be used to buy items, but now her points were reduced by so much. If there really was a point product, she wouldn't be able to buy any powerful tools with her points. She was given a false number. Ning Shu rubbed his face. He thought that some things were over, but he didn't expect that there would be a bolt from the blue. She wouldn't let Jingqing go. She really wanted to kill him. The next time she met him, it wouldn't be as simple as reporting him. Ning Shu slammed his thigh. Then let's start again. Ning Shu said to the system space, let's do the mission now. It was not a good idea to keep the missions piled up here. If there happened to be a problem with the plane and they found that this world was not being maintained, and the missions happened to be in her hands, she did not know what kind of punishment they would suffer. The backup system replied, yes. Ning Shu exchanged for some fasting pills, medicine, and water. After all, not every world could use the power of law. If it was an extreme situation, they would have to rely on these things to survive. The backup system replied, we're about to be teleported. Please get ready. Ning Shu nodded and felt a sense of weightlessness. She merged into a body, and there was a lot of noise in her ears, mixed with the sound of crying. Ning Shu closed his eyes and did not move. For the time being, he accepted the mission information. However, there was no information at all. Ning Shu asked the backup system. The backup system said, the surrounding client has lost their memories. There is no information. Ning Shu was speechless. Therefore, how could a client with no memory be so resentful? Why would the organization accept the client's request? Without memories, there was no way to complete the mission. Even he did not know who he was. Who the hell knew what he wanted and how to complete the mission? It was indeed a little weird. His ears were full of people talking. The language was a little difficult to understand. It should be an ancient plane. Ning Shu decided to cultivate first. After these people left, Ning Shu woke up with trembling eyelashes. A maid was wiping tears by the bed. Miss, you're awake. The maid was very happy and hurriedly asked, Miss, how do you feel? Are you uncomfortable? Are you hungry? Ning Shu, who are you? Ning Shu made up an excuse, saying that his brain was confused and his brain was blank. Like all the plots, he could only ask this maid. If she randomly grabbed someone to ask, especially in an ancient plane, she would be burned to death as a monster. Moreover, Ning Shu did not know what the original personality of the client was. How could she complete the mission without knowing anything? Ning Shu wanted to curse the main system. Since the client had lost his memory and did not remember anything, or sealed his own memory, why couldn't the organization investigate and give him some basic information? This was all because the client was stubborn and could not do it. If the client was transparent and there was no complicated situation, it would be fine. But looking at the decorations in the house, it was not an ordinary house. This was not the backyard of an ordinary family. The backyard was a place where one could kill without spilling blood. The women in the backyard were all smart. Ning Shu felt that the women in the backyard of the rich and powerful in ancient times would definitely be white bones in the modern world. But there was no such opportunity. Ning Shu rubbed his head with a pained expression. The maid immediately asked, "Miss, are you choking too much water? Did she fall into the fish pond?" There was water in the backyard of the courtyard, rockery, flowing water, and fish ponds. Could she faint from choking on water? "Miss, you will be blessed after surviving a disaster. This young master saved you." Ah! Ning Shu's head hurt. She fell into the water and was saved by a man. Damn, this was not good. The maid's expression was very gratified. "Miss, if you marry young master, we can stay in the house." Ning Shu did not want to talk at all. She did not go out while she was sick. After all, she did not know anyone. Every day, she would listen to the maid's chatter. This maid was called Dong Shui. Then, Ning Shu obtained the following information from her chatter. The client was living under someone else's roof. The people in the house called her Miss Biao. She was living in her uncle's house. Her parents were dead and she was an orphan. The identity of an orphan in ancient times was more sensitive. Families who wanted to marry would not choose such a girl. Moreover, Ning Shu did not feel good when he heard that she was a cousin. Since ancient times, cousins were usually cannon fodder. Always listening to Dong Shui's chatter about how handsome and talented that young master was, Ning Shu felt that this body had no chance with that young master. She was an orphan living under someone else's roof. How could the young master's mother agree to her son marrying such a girl? Ning Shu directly asked, "Does cousin like me?" Dong Shui thought for a moment and said, "I think young master treats you quite well. Miss has all the things that the other misses in the house have. Young master will not favor one and discriminate against the other." Ning Shu facepalmed. That was definitely not a chance. In any case, Ning Shu felt that the handsome and talented cousin would at most have a little pity and sympathy for this cousin. Or he would be polite and courteous as a host. The client could not really have any improper thoughts about this cousin, right? If she wanted to marry cousin and stay in the house, the chances were close to zero. Chapter 30-48. Even if the cousin really liked the client, she could only be a concubine. The position of the legal wife would definitely not be given to the client. Ning Shu didn't know if the client had really been careless or if he had purposely set it up so that he could scam her cousin. Ning Shu asked Dong Shui to take a mirror and looked at the person in the mirror. She had a small nose, cherry lips, beautiful curved face, watery eyes, and a pitiful expression. Wow, she looked like a two-faced, pitiful cousin who was black-bellied and vicious on the inside. Ning Shu asked Dong Shui how she fell into the water. When it came to falling into the water, Dong Shui's expression became indignant. She said, "It's all the third Miss's fault. The third Miss deliberately tripped you into the pool." "Are you sure?" Ning Shu had to understand the client's current situation. After all, she was living under someone else's roof. She must look at the other person's face. It was not her own home. Maybe the other person would ask her to pack up and get out. So it was normal for the client to be timid and cautious. It was not her own territory. She couldn't take it for granted and be self-confident. Ning Shu could be sure of the client's character. At least in front of others, she was more timid and timid. She was definitely not as noisy as a cockfight. Of course, the third Miss doesn't like you the most. Dong Shui looked at Ning Shu and said carefully, "Actually, they are bullying the third Miss because she has no family." Ning Shu rubbed his head and told Dong Shui that his head hurt. It hurt so much that he couldn't remember a lot of things. When Dong Shui heard this, she hurriedly went to find a doctor, but Ning Shu stopped her. No need, it will be troublesome again. He felt that the client was a bit like Lin Daiyu. Lin Daiyu actually had a lot of money. But he didn't know how much money she had. He had to know the client's family background and how her parents died. If there was any information, he wouldn't have to waste time on such a thing. Moreover, he didn't know how things would go in the future. Dong Shui was probably used to her master's weak appearance. She hurriedly poured water for Ning Shu. "Miss, drink some water. It will make you feel better." Ning Shu nodded, took a sip, and asked Dong Shui some questions. Actually, the client's family background was not bad. Her father was the prefectural magistrate, and her mother was the young miss of the Marquis Manor. She was the daughter of the Marquis Manor's first wife, and the Marquis Manor's first wife's daughter. The Marquis Manor's first wife's grandmother. However, during a trip, they were killed by bandits. Although they were officials, they were dressed casually at that time. Even if they killed the officials of the imperial court, the bandits would have already run away. She was originally a delicate girl, but after losing her parents, her father's relatives completely ignored her. Logically speaking, if an orphan girl of the clan went to seek refuge with someone else, the clan would probably lose face and let someone else raise the daughter of the clan. But the client insisted on coming to the capital to seek refuge with her grandmother and uncle, who were closer to her. The matriarch loved her granddaughter, so she left her in the Marquis' manor. The client was about to talk about marriage. Since she lived in the Marquis' manor, the Marquis' manor should make the decision on marriage. When the time came, they just needed to inform the head of the Xiao family. Xiao Caishan's aunt said a few things for her, but Xiao Caishan rejected them all with the reason of mourning. This made the matriarch of the Marquis' manor unhappy for a long time. Especially when she found out that this orphan girl was thinking about her son and wanted to stay in the Marquis' manor, it made her even more unhappy. If he married a cousin who lived in the Marquis' manor, those who didn't know would think that the Marquis' manor was bullying an orphan girl. Moreover, an orphan girl with nothing, no family background, and no parents. This kind of girl was probably ominous. Marrying her parents would bring bad luck. This was similar to Ning Shu's guess. Maybe the client liked that cousin and wanted a place in the Marquis' manor. Even if they talked about marriage, with the client's situation, it couldn't be a good marriage at all. The conditions were right there. Rich families had many requirements for a wife. Ning Shu didn't believe that the client could go crazy for love wholeheartedly after losing her parents and seeing the bleak world. The most important thing now was the cousin's attitude. Ning Shu asked, "Does cousin like me?" Dong Shui thought for a moment, "He should like you. Young master is very polite to Mississippi." Then he didn't like her. Ning Shu released his mental strength, enveloping the entire Marquis' manor. The Marquis' manor took up a lot of space. The number of maids, servants, masters, men, wives, and concubines wasn't small. Ning Shu memorized the faces and names of these people. Instead, she saw her incomparably handsome and talented cousin. Fu Yizhi. He really was quite handsome. He was as gentle as jade, and his every move was elegant. This kind of appearance, family background, and talent was enough to make a girl fall head over heels for him. If the client really liked this cousin, it wasn't shameful. Everyone liked outstanding men. But this man definitely didn't like the client. It was fine if he didn't like her, but what should he do next? He was really restricted here, giving the client a place to rest. She was an outsider, and the people of the Marquis' manor couldn't treat her as family. Especially the matter of his cousins, Ning Shu felt that it wasn't good. Cousins were used as cannon fodder, and they were so pitiful. Who knew if they would cry at the slightest thing? Ning Shu lifted the blanket and sat up, crossing his legs and rubbing his chin. Ancient girls who didn't have a family and didn't have a place to rest were really bitter. But she couldn't show her face in public. Unlike in the modern world, she could rent a house and find a job to support herself. If he said that he wanted to move out, the first to object would be the people of the Marquise Manor. The ancient people who wanted a reputation wouldn't leave a reputation of mistreating orphaned girls. Ning Shu couldn't help but kick the blanket. This was really a dilemma. Especially when the client didn't have any wishes. Who knew what she wanted in her heart? Big hole. Ning Shu used his mental energy to scan the situation in the room, mainly to see how much money the client had. Ning Shu picked up the pillow and took out a few banknotes. The face value wasn't very big, 100 taels for one. In fact, 100 taels was a lot for an ordinary person. But compared to the Marquise Manor, it was definitely shabby. Even if Xiao Caishan's father had some money, it was taken away by the family. For example, the family said that they wanted to take back the land. The rest of the money was to be used for the funeral of her parents. There wasn't much left. Even if she got married in the future, with some money in her hands, even if the Marquise Manor subsidized some dowry, her dowry would definitely be shabby. If she wanted to marry an ordinary person, the Marquise Manor wouldn't allow it. Otherwise, people would say that the Marquise Manor was harsh on orphaned girls. Chapter 3049. She didn't put in any effort and just casually married her niece off. In other words, the client was a hot potato for the Ho Fu, especially when it came to marriage. Especially since the client had rejected the Ho Fu's mistress several times, she had already made the people in the Ho Fu unhappy. This time, when she fell into the water, many people would be able to tell that something was wrong. They would think that she was trying to scam the young master Fu Yiji. "Miss, why are you up? Quickly cover yourself with the quilt. You just soaked in the water, don't catch a cold." Dong Shui carried the ginger soup and placed it beside the bed. She quickly arranged the quilt and covered Ning Shu with it. "Miss, drink some ginger soup. Don't get sick." Ning Shu drank the spicy ginger soup. In other people's houses, she always caused trouble and annoyed them. The Ho Fu gave her half a house to shelter her from the wind and rain. She didn't have the confidence to cause trouble and might even be called an ingrate. Ning Shu's headache was that he didn't know what the client wanted. Ning Shu asked the backup system, "Is the client watching me do the task now?" The backup system replied, "She's watching." Ning Shu said, "Then can you communicate with her and ask her what she wants?" Shouldn't he say something in this situation? Was it really good to watch her run around like a headless fly? The backup system replied, "I can't communicate with her. This is to prevent the client from changing her wishes and repeatedly increasing the difficulty for the task taker. And even if I can communicate with her, the client has already lost her memory. She also doesn't know what she wants." Ning Shu sighed. In this situation, he could only follow his own pace. After drinking the ginger soup, Ning Shu let Dong Shui dress him up and went to find the old madam. The old madam was Xiao Caishan's grandmother. She had a tender heart towards the client. After all, she was an orphan and her own daughter had died. The old madam wanted to take care of her. After tidying up, Ning Shu looked at himself in the mirror. He was dressed plainly. After all, it was still the morning period. It was not suitable for him to wear red and heavy makeup. Dressed like this, coupled with the client's appearance, she looked like she was in mourning, delicate and pitiful. Ning Shu felt more and more that she was a cannon fodder supporting female lead. Perhaps the male lead was that handsome and talented Fu Yiji. As the young marquis, the title of marquis would be passed on to him in the future. He was a noble with a noble status. Ning Shu went to the old madam's courtyard. The house was quite lively. When the old madam's nanny said that Miss Gu had come, the atmosphere in the house changed. Ning Shu walked into the house and felt that everyone was looking at him with different gazes, which contained a lot of information. Fu Yizhi was also there. He was dressed in light green clothes. He stood there like a tall and straight bamboo. Ning Shu touched his chest. His heart did not seem to be beating wildly. Could it be that the client did not love Fu Yizhi? Otherwise, he wouldn't have any reaction when he saw her body. His mouth could lie, but his body was honest. It was a real thing. When he saw the person he liked, his kidney would be stimulated and his heart would beat faster. Could it be that his soul was strong enough to suppress this feeling? Ning Shu decided to interact more. Maybe if Fu Yizhi said something, this body would have a reaction. When the old madam saw Ning Shu, she asked, "Why are you up? Why aren't you resting in bed?" Ning Shu quickly helped the old madam with her luggage. Then he helped everyone present with their luggage. The Marquis's wife smiled and said, "You child, we are all family. You don't have to be so polite." Although she was smiling, the skin on her face was twitching. Looking closely, there was a bit of disgust and apprehension in her eyes. Ning Shu smiled and bowed to Fu Yizhi, "Cousin is well." Fu Yizhi returned the greeting, "Cousin." His voice was clear and bright. It was not low. He enunciated each word clearly and slowly. He stared into the other's eyes without avoiding them. This was a person with an aura of 2.8 meters. Ning Shu's heart beat faster. Could it be that the person who entrusted him was a voice controller? When the Marquis's wife saw her son talking to the orphan, her face darkened. Especially when Ning Shu said that he had saved her life, her face could not bear to look at it. Ning Shu said, "Kaishan thanks cousin for saving my life." In that kind of dangerous situation, there was no difference between man and woman. Life is important. I hope cousin will not take it to heart. No matter how much the heavens extinguished human desires, if a person flopped in the water and did not save a person because there was no difference between man and woman, this was against human nature. Fu Yizhi only said, "Cousin is right. It is good that cousin does not take it to heart. You are the Marquis's daughter and also my sister." The word "little sister" removed the ambiguity in it. The Marquis's wife laughed. This time her laughter was genuine. She grabbed Ning Shu's hand and said, "You are brother and sister. It would be unreasonable if he did not save you." Ning Shu smiled faintly, "Thank you, aunt. I have troubled aunt." The Marquis's household was living under someone else's roof. Even if she married out, it would change from living under someone else's roof to living under someone else's roof. The woman who was abandoned could only wring her hair and pray to Buddha for the rest of her life. Ning Shu had now become an ancient woman who was at a loss for her future. This world was not an ordinary kind of difficult. Women did not have any space to survive. What should she do? If she randomly found someone to marry, who knows what kind of person she would marry? If she just happened to marry someone she liked, the chances were not high. If this was her own life, finding a suitable person to marry was not realistic to talk about love here. Could it be that she would elope with a servant? If the person who entrusted him really wanted to scam Fu Yizhi, then he definitely wanted to stay in the Marquis's household. Compared to going to an unfamiliar place, the Marquis's household was a good choice. But Ning Shu was afraid that she was a cannon fodder cousin. So towards Fu Yizhi, she wanted to stay as far away as possible. Moreover, Fu Yizhi did not have any good feelings towards cousin. Not getting close to Fu Yizhi could also make the people in the Marquis's household treat her better. She did not really care about what these people thought. But because of Fu Yizhi, living in the Marquis's household was not worth it at all. The Marquis's household was very complicated. There were 4 branches, and all of them were not separated. Everyone lived in the same household. There were many eyes, and it was very chaotic. Ning Shu was an orphan girl. If she wanted to live a peaceful life in the Marquis's household, she must be broad-minded and clear-minded. On the surface, everyone would not mistreat an orphan girl like her. Even if she suffered some grievances, it was not her own family, so it was unavoidable. If she wanted to move out, she reckoned that she would not be able to. The Marquis's household wanted its reputation. Aunt would not let her leave, old Madame would also not let her leave. She could only stay in the Marquis's household. If Xiao Kaishan did not come to the Marquis's household, an orphan girl would not be able to support the family. The family property and marriage were all decided by the family. They would most likely use Xiao Kaishan, and would not put much thought into the marriage. In short, the situation of the person who entrusted him was awkward, extremely awkward. /BK You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.